Two Worlds I Studied at Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101 Encounter with a Court Mage. When the Thorn left Xilin Wharf and the search and arrest personnel led by the spellcaster from Luoyang City returned, a small group of people in black also sneaked into the town from the jungle north of Xilin. Among the 9 people, 8 of them were of similar height and build, wearing special black clothes. If some veterans who had fought in the battlefield were here, they would definitely notice that these people had a black strange bird of different shapes but very ferocious tattooed on the back of their right hands. Master Hansen, the clues are cut off at the Xilin town monastery. After finding the internal contact sign, a leader of the black-clothed people bowed and saluted to the only person in the team wearing a bright red robe. This town is not big, keep looking. The man in the red robe with a golden mask on his face was obviously the leader of the entire team. At his command, the 8 black-clothed people instantly disappeared in different directions of Xilin town. It was not until a day later, when only McGonagall, a spellcaster, returned from the search team of Flowing Cloud City, that the top leaders of the Gracia Federation learned that Night Owl and the court mage had sneaked into Xilin. 3 days later, after the resolution of the 5 highest members of the Federation, Chief Consul Arthur Fuller issued a secret investigation order. We must find out the real reason why the court's senior mage sneaked into Xilin. Moon, who had already left at this time, naturally did not know that in the small town of Xilin, because of his existence, a war between magicians had been triggered. Although Moon has always lived by the sea, he has never admired the endless sea on the ship. After boarding the Thorn, Moon would stay on the deck for a long time every day until the people living in the lower cabin came up to breathe, and then he would return to the lounge specially arranged by Gold. Now that he has such a quiet room, Moon decided to practice the spell well, and then continue to take time to disassemble the growth magic. In addition, he must pay close attention to the little magician living in the lower cabin. Chris Calvin rushed to Xilin from the village at the foot of the Snow Eagle Mountain in the north. After the fire dragon flew over the Snow Eagle Mountain, she and Aunt Whitney, who had been taking care of her, packed their bags and set off that night. Because they had always taken the main road, they were faster than those who escaped from Luoyang City. But even so, when they arrived at the dock, the ticket to the Vina Islands had risen to 80 gold coins. After persuading Aunt Whitney, Chris paid all her fortune to get the 2 of them a pass to leave. We have no money left. We can't survive even if we go to the Vina Islands. We might as well stay in the Federation. After getting 2 tickets that she might not be able to earn back in her lifetime, Aunt Whitney kept nagging. Chris didn't think she did anything wrong, although she also knew that there was a saying in the Federation that money can lead to everything, but now, it would be a disaster for the 2 women to save more money, especially in times of war. Okay, and stop talking, I will make money to support you. Hearing Chris's words, Aunt Whitney couldn't help rolling her eyes. As the oldest servant of the Calvin family, she had spent the first 40 years of her life witnessing the growth of the family. From a family of 2, they gradually developed into a local wealthy family with hundreds of acres of land. But soon after, when the youngest member of the family, Chris, was discovered to have magical talent by a passing magician, she witnessed a rapid decline of the family within 3 years. First, the members of the family disappeared inexplicably, then the land was sold again and again, and finally only 2 thatched houses and the 2 of them were left. I just hope you don't do those messy things anymore. Messy? Mammy, you have to know that is. Seeing that someone around noticed the quarrel between the 2, Chris immediately stopped what she was about to say. At this time, 2 people covered in blood came up the stairs leading to the cabin. After seeing these 2 people, the people around them unconsciously kept away. Chris seemed to have discovered a treasure. Her eyes lit up, and she looked at Mammy Whitney again. Just watch, Mammy, these messy things can earn you more money than you can imagine. After Chris finished speaking, she immediately stood up and walked towards Lance. Mammy Whitney was about to hold her back, but she was a step too slow. Come back. Chris ignored the intermittent and urgent calls from behind her, and she walked towards the empty space in the corner of the cabin with courage. When Lance saw someone approaching, he subconsciously wanted to attack, but when he saw that it was just a little girl of 12 or 13 years old, he did not do it directly. Leave here. Although he knew that the opponent was unlikely to find a little girl to sneak onto the ship and assassinate her in a hurry, Lance still maintained the highest vigilance. The person lying on the ground is seriously injured. I can save him. Chris was actually very scared, but she knew that only from these two people would what she learned be valuable. Hearing the little girl say this, Lance did not insist on letting her leave. This time when he escaped from Luoyang City, he did not carry any potions, which caused the person he was protecting to remain unconscious. So when he heard that the other party had a way to treat him, Lance hesitated. After Chris found that the other party did not refuse, she reached out and took out a black bread from her white bag. I only have this now, maybe you can. Before the black bread was handed to Lance, Sister Whitney had already walked over and snatched the bread. We don't have much food, we can't give it to others, sister, they are injured, that won't work. After Sister Whitney finished speaking, she ran to the original position with the black bread and squatted down. Seeing this scene, Chris smiled helplessly again. You can trust me, I'm a doctor. After Chris finished speaking, she took out half a black bread from her small bag, which was what she had left last night. After what happened just now, Lance's vigilance had been slightly reduced, and he had not eaten for a day and a night, so he immediately took the bread. But Lance did not finish it all at once, and he stuffed about half of the bread into his clothes. You said you are a doctor? But you are too young? After finishing the bread, Lance swallowed hard before looking at the other person again. I am a family doctor. I have been learning medicine from my grandfather since I was 6 years old. It has been 8 years now. The whole village of St. Nixon knows me, Chris explained without changing her expression. Seeing that Lance was still a little unconvinced, she said again. If you don't believe it, you can ask my nanny. Almost all the villagers in St. Nixon village have received my treatment. When seeing Chris take out half a piece of black bread, Sister Whitney had come here again. However, she had just walked halfway when she heard someone asking her to give false testimony, and she froze in place. St. Nixon village. Sister Whitney knew very well that the place where she had lived all her life was called Machiko village. St. Nixon village, she had never even heard of it. There are 5 chapters today. This is the first chapter. Thank you for your subscription support. Chapter 102, Potions Raw Materials. Lance initially refused to accept the strange doctor who suddenly came to sell his medicine. Especially since the doctor was young and had a stingy servant with him. But just as Lance was about to refuse, Albert, who was lying on the ground, suddenly vomited several mouthfuls of black and red blood. He hurriedly took out the already dirty cloth to wipe the blood. Hold on. Seeing the patient on the ground, whose condition suddenly worsened, Chris knew that the opportunity had come. I don't think he can survive more than 7 days. Of course, the premise is that he doesn't have an excellent doctor and excellent medicine. Hearing Chris say this, Lance made up his mind without any hesitation. Okay, I ask you to treat him, but how much do you want for your consultation? 3, oh no, 10 gold coins. You know, I may be the only one on the ship who can save him. Okay, I agree. When he just got on the ship, Lance just handed over all the gold on Albert, and he still wore the 200 gold coins in his purse. Chris didn't expect that this business would be successful so quickly. After seeing that the other party agreed to pay, she immediately squatted down and carefully examined the injured person's body. After confirming that there was no temporary danger to life, she found the first mate Karen on the ship and put forward her request. When the little magician Chris was doing her first business in her life, Brad also came to Moon's room. I really didn't expect that life on the ship would be better than being a servant in the monastery. I want to stay on the ship forever. Brad's small room on the ship was the same as the 73 people in the alley, all on the second floor below the deck of the big ship. This area is not only an independent space, but also has much better sanitary conditions and lighting conditions than the lower cabins. Really? Are you going to give up your family's horse breeding business? Moon knew that Brad had always wanted to restore the glory of his ancestors, and he even proposed to breed unicorns. I don't want to give up, but there is no way now. The Vina Islands are full of seawater. How can we raise horses? Who said we can't? The 6 main islands of the Vina Islands are larger than the jurisdiction of Luoyang City. Do you think we can raise horses? After copying a sea chart from Gold, Moon also roughly understood the situation of the entire Vina Islands. The distance between this archipelago and the Manila Empire and the Gracia Federation is about the same, but because it is isolated overseas, it is rarely invaded by war. It is precisely because of this that the population on the Vina Islands is much denser than on the mainland, and trade is more prosperous. Is it really that big? Alice, I should have sold the location to that businessman just now." After hearing Moon explain the situation of the Vina Islands, Brad obviously regretted it. "What do you mean by selling a position?" "Just now, a wealthy businessman wanted to buy a position on the second floor and offered 100 gold coins. This price can buy 3 adult horses and a pony. Why didn't you agree?" "It was Uncle Hall who stopped me. He said that it's best not to live with strangers outside." Moon felt that what Hall said made sense, especially for veterans like them who had fought outside and must have rich life experience. Since Hall believed that the position could not be sold to outsiders, Moon would naturally not refuse. Brad had always wanted to raise horses, which reminded Moon. Most of the people who came out with him this time were the elderly, women and children, and many of them did not have any special skills. And the time spent on the Vina Islands would inevitably be very long, so before the food accumulated in the early stage was eaten up, it was necessary to find a source of income that could really sustain life. In fact, Xilin had been thinking about this problem these days, which was one of the reasons why he asked Gold for the sea chart. However, as a veteran with rich combat experience, he still had some difficulties in finding a way to live for 73 people. "Uncle Xilin, have you decided what to do after you get to the island?" Moon asked curiously, watching Xilin, who had been dozing in the room with a sea chart covering his face. "Of course it's hunting. I saw that there are still many high mountain jungles in the Vina Islands, and there must be prey there, but hunting alone can't support so many people. Then go fishing. Anyway, it's odyssey here." Hearing Xalin's perfunctory reply, Moon sighed helplessly. The Vina Islands have a lot of sea, but there are even more fishermen. The most important thing is that the people who came out with them don't have much experience in fishing. Most of the people in Veteran Alley moved to Xilin after the war, so even though Xilin is very close to the sea, they don't have any life experience in this area. Just when Moon was thinking about how to solve this problem, Karen, the first mate of the Thorn, came outside the room. "Sir Scarlett, the person you asked us to pay attention to has made a move." The person Karen was talking about was naturally Chris, the little wizard who lived in the bottom of the cabin. Because they didn't know the other party's true ability and were afraid of various misunderstandings, Moon did not go to meet directly, but asked the crew on the Thorn to observe the other party closely. Brad in the room did not know what the first mate on the ship said. He was just surprised by the other party's respectful attitude towards Mumu. Xilin knew it very well, so after Karen finished speaking, he sat up immediately. What did she do? Moon also became interested. He did not expect that this little magician would not hide herself well and take action on the ship. She said she is a doctor and wants to make a healing potion. She wants to buy some batfish swim bladders and flame snail shells from us. Hearing that the little magician claimed to be a doctor, Moon couldn't help but smile. Although he had long known that many magicians relied on treating ordinary people to make a living, he did not expect that this little magician could actually make potions. Especially after hearing that the other party did not ask for herbs, but needed such alternative materials, Moon was more certain that the other party must be making potions. Do you think she is a fake doctor? I have lived on the sea for so many years, but I have never heard that disgusting fish maw can cure diseases. Karen was very confused at first. He didn't know why the wizard in front of him would pay so much attention to a little girl. Until the other party proposed to use these things to make potions, he felt that Moon must have discovered that the little girl was a liar and wanted to punish her. Moon did not explain to Karen. After receiving potion education at Hogwarts, Moon knew very well that it was very common to use animal viscera to make potions. Moon even knew that there were various potions made with more disgusting slugs and rat bile. Can you get these two things? Now that he knew that these two things were likely to be the raw materials of some kind of potion, Moon couldn't help but become curious. Today is the second chapter of the 5th chapter. Please subscribe. Chapter 103 Chris's Preparation. Karen, the first mate of the Thorn, was not clear about Moon's idea. However, seeing that the distinguished magician also had this need, he answered the question seriously. Both of these things are not difficult to obtain. Batfish are in the cabin kitchen, and flame snail shells can be caught when we cast nets when we pass the Fire Ash Sea area tonight. Well, please meet the doctor's needs and prepare 10 more of the same materials for me. Okay. Although he had long known that magicians' thinking was different from that of ordinary people, Karen still found it difficult to understand. Oh, by the way, Mr. Scarlett, the fake doctor, said he wanted to rent a room for half a day and was willing to pay 5 gold coins. The strange materials and the quiet and closed environment made Moon more certain of his guess. Okay, rent her my room and tell her that I don't want money, but I must stay in the room the whole time. Okay, sir, there are no other rooms on the ship anyway. After Karen left, he went to discuss the terms with Chris and then went to prepare the materials. Moon was now more interested in the potion observation. Are you sure he wants to make a potion? Xilin was also a little curious. Although he had been a guardian of a spellcaster, he had never seen a potion being made. I was only 50% sure, but after hearing about the materials he was going to use, I was very sure that he was going to make a potion. Materials. Xilin also recalled what the first mate Karen had just said. I know that batfish is a flat black sea fish. Many people say that eating it can prevent dry eyes. I know about the flame snail shell. Some herders in Xilin use this shell to make horns to drive cattle and sheep. Because it is very strong and durable, it can be preserved for a long time. Brad, who was already very curious about Moon's magic, became even more excited after hearing about the potion. So he hurriedly told him what he knew about the flame snail shell. Yes, this kind of snail mostly lives near the crater of the seabed. Because it has been baked by magma for a long time and tempered by seawater, the shell is very hard. Xilin also told him what he knew. Chris didn't know there was another magician on the ship. When Karen told her that she needed someone to watch, she just thought it was the doctor on board who wanted to spy and learn. But she had already thought of a way to deal with it. Chris knew that ordinary people didn't have the ability to make potions. But just in case, she still prepared some of the materials for making potions in advance. Although this was just a little clever, it could prevent the prying of most magicians. With this preparation, Chris readily agreed to Moon's conditions. Especially now that she was very short of money, 5 gold coins in exchange for an ordinary person to watch, in her opinion, was very cost-effective. The day after Chris agreed to the deal, Karen sent Moon 10 copies of Batfish Swim Bladder and Flame Snail Shell. Because Chris also had to pre-make these 2 materials, she set the time for making potions to tomorrow morning. Moon also took this time to study the materials he had obtained. After learning that Chris was going to save the unconscious young man, Moon guessed that this potion might be related to healing cuts. On the day the young man boarded the ship yesterday, he found that he was covered with various sword wounds. As for the potion formula for healing cuts, Moon still has a Hogwarts version in his hand. This is what Moon learned in the potion class more than a month ago. The formula includes hemostatic grass, healing fern, soothing flower, fire dragon scale powder, a drop of elf tears and pure spring water. Among them, the hemostatic grass, Moon has found a substitute when he was distinguishing herbs in Xilin, insect and vegetable. This is another name for a hemostatic grass by the herbal merchants in Xilin. After drying and grinding the batfish's swim bladder using the fire spell, Moon found that this material has similar properties to the soothing flower. After putting the swim bladder powder into his mouth, Moon found that in addition to a little fishy smell, it also has a slightly calming effect. After reaching this conclusion, Moon took out his potion record book and filled in the words Batfish Swim Bladder behind the tranquilizing grass. As for the other material, the flame snail shell, Moon associated it with the fire dragon scale powder when he first saw it. Xilin explained yesterday that this kind of snail mostly lives near the crater of the seabed. After being tempered by the volcano and seawater, their shells are very hard. Brad tried to use the captured night owl scimitar, but couldn't split it easily. Moon guessed that the little witch must have crushed the shell to make the potion. Although he didn't know how the other party could crush such a hard thing, he had a more convenient way. Softening spell, this is one of the basic spells that Moon mastered. After Brad tested the hardness of the shell with the scimitar, Moon took out the old willow wand and cast the spell on the shell. The flame snail shell is just as Moon imagined, it also has a certain magic resistance. After Moon cast 3 consecutive, softening spells, the shell was finally crushed into powder. I'm really curious about what this little witch will do. After Moon wrote a large amount of flame shells are needed behind the dragon scales in the potion record book, he became even more curious about how the little witch would deal with such a hard thing. But he obviously couldn't get the answer today. Because tonight he would leave Xilin and go to Hogwarts. Xilin also knew that Moon would be away for 3 minutes tonight, so after nightfall, he was very alert and stayed in the room. On the first morning after returning to Hogwarts, Hermione brought good news. The number 2 flame is very stable, and it has persisted for 2.5 days. Tomorrow morning, it will meet the 3-day deadline you mentioned. Hermione said and took the last 3 remaining jars to the table one by one. Moon checked them one by one. The number 2 flame was indeed very stable. It burned the longest time. Not only did it not show any signs of extinguishing, but the size of the flame did not change. Although the number 3 flame was still burning, it was a little weak, and the flame had shrunk by half. Flame number 5 had a short-term high-temperature phenomenon, and the top of the jar was burned black. "Are you okay?" "It's okay. There was a magic cannon blocking it. I just felt a little heat, and then I got burned when I picked it up with my hand, but I applied burn medicine yesterday," Hermione said as she stretched out her left hand that had been stuffed in her pocket. There was a 3-finger-wide white bandage wrapped on it. "Hermione, are you okay?" Just as Hermione was about to remove the bandage according to Madame Pomfrey's medical advice, Ron, Harry, Seamus and Neville also came to the common room. After seeing Hermione injured, several young wizards ran over with different expressions. Please subscribe, this is the 3rd chapter today. Chapter 104 The Short General. After learning that Hermione was burned while testing the hand warmer, several young wizards showed concerned expressions. Hermione had not encountered a similar situation since the start of school. She blushed and explained that she was fine. Then she took out her left hand again and again to prove that the burn had completely healed. "Moon, does this hand warmer still need to be tested?" "I don't think Hermione can bear so much alone." Ron's rare attitude made the young wizards around him look at him with new eyes. They used to think that Ron would always quarrel with Hermione, but never thought that he would speak for her. To be on the safe side, I think it's better to test it again. Although the number 2 flame is very stable now, Moon still wants to try it again to see if it can be optimized. "That's great. It just so happens that all of us can help, and it's about to succeed, isn't it?" Seeing that there is still a chance to show himself, Ron became happy. "Yes, we will get a basic stable version before the astronomy class this week," Moon said as he extinguished the fire-starting charm of the number 3 and number 5 jars, then took out 2 empty jars and lit 4 more jars based on the number 2 fire-starting charm. "Okay, let's each take one," Ron said as he was about to reach out for the number 2 jar, but Hermione grabbed it back in advance. This, I can do it too." After the last experience, Hermione had a deep understanding of the boys' carelessness. However, after experiencing everyone's concern, she couldn't say anything to refuse now. But thinking that she had already put in a whole week of hard work for the number 2 fire-starting charm, she was still reluctant to take it in advance. "Okay, there are still 4 left. I'll go first," Ron said as he took the number 3 jar, followed by Harry, Neville and Seamus. "Don't worry, we will take it seriously this time. It's just one day, we can do it." After making the promise, several roommates happily left the common room and headed towards the hall to have breakfast. Moon and Hermione walked at the end of the team. Looking at the 4 students in front of her who showed blind confidence, Hermione showed an embarrassed expression on her face. "In fact, I think Ron is more reliable." After leaving the common room, Hermione said something without thinking. Moon only thought about it for a while and understood what Hermione meant. Regarding the experience of keeping the fire spell jar last time, Moon knew that Ron was actually the one who could avoid mistakes the most. Because this year's College Cup is approaching, Harry has been busy with Quidditch training recently. And Neville always loses things inexplicably. As for Seamus, his weird talent makes Moon very confident in the stability of the new fire spell, but he dare not guarantee what changes will happen in Seamus' hands. In this comparison, Ron is indeed the most suitable candidate. "Anyway, I'm very confident in the number 2 fire spell." Hermione, who was originally very tired from studying the fire spell, now seemed to be a little happier. "By the way, have you thought about making the container?" Thinking that the modification of the fire spell was about to succeed, Hermione couldn't wait to get the finished product. "I'll ask Professor Sprout about it in the club tonight." When Moon and Hermione were discussing the container, everyone had already arrived in the hall to enjoy breakfast. After hearing the two talking about the container, several young wizards couldn't help but become curious. "Aren't we going to use this jar as a hand warmer?" Ron asked after taking a bite of smoked meat. "Of course not, we've already thought about it. We're going to use..." Hermione consciously lowered her voice when she said this. Then she glanced at the Slytherin table and saw that no one noticed them, so she continued to speak with confidence. "We plan to use Snape as a container." "Wow, a genius idea." After hearing Hermione's answer, Ron patted the table, startling many people around him. "Ron, keep your voice down, okay, but I have to say, using a little Snape as a hand warmer must be great." After hearing what Ron said, Moonspoon froze at his lips, and a strange look appeared in his eyes. "Ron, are you sure?" "Of course. Think about it, we can keep roasting Snape, and let him warm my hands. How great is that? It's okay to put it in your hand, but if you put it in the quilt at night, are you sure you won't be scared?" Hearing Moon's calm assumption, Ron just thought about it for a while, and couldn't help shivering. He had a habit of having nightmares at night, and if he woke up and saw Snape's face again. Thinking of this, Ron shook his head palely and sat down. "Okay, excluding little Snape, what kind of shape do you want to make, Harry?" In order to quickly get the image of Snape out of his mind at night, Ron immediately asked Harry next to him. "I want a little Hedwig, then I'll make a little Rifford." Neville also expressed his opinion. "I want a salamander." Seamus's idea did not deviate from his original hobby, so no one was surprised. "Moon, you don't need to say anything. You can't make anything else except Bumble." Ron naturally knew that Moon loved his Niffler very much, so he knew it without guessing. "Yes, I want to make a Bumble, and then make a small Bumble for Bumble, then you have 3 Bumbles." "Do you have any special fetish for Nifflers?" Ron counted on his fingers and looked at Moon again. "Of course, don't you think Nifflers are very cute?" "Okay, what about you, Hermione? What do you want?" "I actually wanted to have a cat a long time ago, but my parents didn't allow it, so if I could, of course I would choose a cat." After choosing what to make next, several little wizards were full of expectations for the making of hand warmers. Of course, normal courses cannot be relaxed. The history of magic class on Monday was a comfortable lunch break for most students, but Moon listened very carefully in class. Professor Binns has already talked about the Wizarding Society in the Middle Ages today. At that time, wizards began to hide because they possessed terrifying abilities and lost the trust of the royal family. During that time, the witch-hunting movement that swept the entire European wizarding world took place. It was also under this circumstance that the International Confederation of Wizards formulated the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy. Wizards began to slowly disappear from Muggle society. Hearing Professor Binns say this, Moon became more curious about the world where Xilin was. Although there is magic in both worlds, the lifestyles of wizards are obviously different. Especially the world where Hogwarts is. All wizards here are hidden, which reminds Moon unconsciously of the metaphor of magicians are mice. How about 5 chapters tomorrow? Little wizards. Give some strength. Chapter 105 Dangerous Soil. Although Moon has become a real magician now, but he doesn't know much about the history of magicians in both worlds. It was okay at Hogwarts. Learning in the history of magic course made Moon know a way for magicians and ordinary muggles to get along. In Xilin, his understanding of magicians, or spellcasters, was only about a period during the Federation Sovereignty War in which Xilin participated. These small amounts of information could not let Moon clearly understand the situation of the entire magic society. Fortunately, he recently met a wild little magician, which gave Moon the opportunity to unveil the mystery of the magic world. According to the original study plan, Moon came to the spell practice classroom after finishing all classes on Monday. As Moon expected, after experiencing the difficulty of practicing spells continuously, his roommates have given up coming here to practice spells. Today, only Hermione followed Moon to the 2nd floor, but she was not there to practice spells. How do you think the people in the Predator team can change the facial expressions of the terracotta figurines, in order to ensure that the hand warmer made next is more beautiful? Hermione followed Moon to the spell practice classroom just to check the magic secrets of Snape. I guess it is probably related to transfiguration. Moon had just finished a hearty spell practice. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and responded to Hermione. I also thought it was transfiguration, but they seemed to do it more complicated. Moon also knew that Snape's transfiguration magic was very powerful. With the transfiguration knowledge they have learned now, it is indeed difficult to copy something exactly the same. In the transfiguration class last week, Moon and his classmates only learned the transformation between buttons and candies. And if you want to change the facial expressions of the terracotta figurines, these small transfiguration techniques are far from enough. However, Moon did not plan to make the hand warmer perfect this time. It can make something that keeps the hands warm all the time, plus a relatively beautiful shell, and the most important thing is that Bengbeng likes it. As long as these 3 points are met, it will be a success for Moon. Hermione obviously didn't think so. She always had a habit of doing her best. But today, until Moon was about to leave the classroom, she didn't find the method she wanted from Snape. I have to go to the library to see if I have forgotten the relevant books, Hermione said and left the spell practice classroom directly. Moon scraped a little oil powder from the bottom of the terracotta after obtaining Filch's consent. At night, when he came to the Christophia Club, Moon found that the little willow branch had grown to a height of nearly half a meter. This was all because Moon used dragon manure fertilizer. It seems that the little willow tree likes dragon manure fertilizer very much. Cedric, who rushed to the club with Moon, was naturally Cedric. As soon as he entered the classroom, he found the taller little willow tree. As the only non-herbal species in the entire club, the height of the magical willow branches indeed ranked first. However, Moon knew that this was only determined by the growth characteristics of the willow tree. After experiencing rapid development in the early stage, the development of the willow tree in the later stage will obviously slow down. Yes, this shows that dragon manure fertilizer is indeed very suitable for its growth. Next, I will experiment with some crop seeds. It was not Moon's purpose to make the little willow tree grow taller. He experimented in this step just to test the characteristics of dragon manure fertilizer. In particular, through the development of willow trees, we can test what proportion of dragon manure fertilizer and how much manure fertilizer can be absorbed by ordinary crops. As for how to find a suitable livelihood on the Vina Islands, Moon's first choice has always been farming. Because most people in Veteran Alley have experience working on farms, this must be the fastest way to stabilize everyone. Before coming to Hogwarts this time, Moon discovered the use of the flame snail shell, which gave him confidence in replicating dragon manure fertilizer. Now there are only two things that Moon needs to solve. One is that the use of dragon manure fertilizer has become the first choice when the growth spell has not been successfully transformed. The other thing is how to find a piece of land on the Vina Islands for everyone to live. We still need to work hard. Yes, me too. The effort Cedric said was the change of his sleepy face fungus. He is now full of confidence in this mutant fungus, especially with the encouragement of the moonlight grass left by Newt. I have to make something like sleepy powder before Christmas, otherwise I might not even be eligible for the selection. Most of the members of the Herb Club want to get the moonlight grass, so the competition for this selection must be very fierce. Moon, on the other hand, knows that his accumulation of herbs is far less than that of the old members of the club, so he does not plan to participate in the selection this year. Therefore, he is very happy to ask Cedric for help. The growth of sleepy fungi is also very fast. I think it will take less than a week to collect enough for the experiment. That's right, Cedric said, put on a thick mask, and began to collect new spore powder. Now the spore powder has all turned green, and the toxicity is even stronger. So even if Moon was just observing from the side, he had to wear a thick mask. I originally just wanted to make a sleeping potion, but seeing that they are getting stronger and stronger now, I don't know how to use it. After collecting the spore powder, Cedric shook the spore powder that had just covered the bottom of the bottle and became worried. Sleeping potions are definitely not good, but you can refer to anesthetic potions or tranquilizers. I think these may be more useful. Moon did not recommend using this enhanced version of spore powder to make sleeping potions. Looking at the green spore powder that exudes the breath of the devil, Moon thinks that using it to make sleeping potions is likely to make insomniacs fall asleep completely. This is a good idea. I remember that the bone-growing spirit potion is very painful when you drink it. If the potion made with spore powder can paralyze the patient, this must be an amazing invention. After Cedric finished speaking, he felt that Moon's idea made sense. However, he didn't know much about anesthetic potions at the moment, so after greeting Moon, he quickly rushed to the library. Moon waited until Professor Sprout was free before taking out the soil powder wrapped in parchment. Professor, I would like you to identify a kind of soil. It should be collected near the castle. Sprout did not refuse, but after seeing the paper bag in Moon's hand, her expression unconsciously became serious. Well, I know where this soil is, but you have to tell me what you are going to do. Moon did not notice the change in Sprout's expression, and he directly expressed his thoughts. I want to make a pottery figurine, and this should be the most suitable soil. Is that so? But I have to say that collecting this oil will be very dangerous if it is not necessary. Professor, I will be more careful. Seeing Moon's insistence, Sprout could only sigh helplessly. Okay, it's late today. I will notify Hagrid and ask him to accompany you to collect this oil tomorrow, Subscription support is urgently needed. Begging. Chapter 106. Spare me, Professor Hermione. Moon didn't know what the dangers Professor Sprout was talking about would be. Especially digging this oil would be dangerous, which made Moon, who had worked at Xilin Farm for more than 4 years, a little confused. But Moon knew that Professor Sprout would not say these things inexplicably, so he did not doubt it. Besides, he just needed to find Hagrid. Now that there has been progress in cultivating small willow branches with dragon manure fertilizer, Moon's next step is to try to plant some crop seeds. There are not many of these ordinary things in the castle, but Moon has seen a lot of them in Hagrid's vegetable garden. After returning to the common room from the club classroom in the evening, Moon had just passed through the portrait door, and Hermione came up to him immediately. Number 2, hand-warming spell, has been persisting for more than 3 days. I think this is a preliminary success. Yes, a hand-warming spell, Moon asked after a slight hesitation. Yes, this is the new name I gave it. The jam jar containing the fire spell has been kept by Hermione recently. After this period of contact, Hermione felt that it was not appropriate to call this kind of flame that could last for a long time the fire-making spell. After all, no one would keep making fire for 3 days. The new name is really good. Moon was not good at naming, so now that Hermione came up with a new name, he naturally had no objection. Especially since the name of this spell was very consistent with their original starting point. Thank you. By the way, did you ask about the clay? Seeing that Moon did not object, Hermione happily asked about the container of the hand-warming spell. I asked. Professor Sprout said that he would ask Hagrid to go with us to get this dangerous oil tomorrow. Dangerous? Yes, although I don't understand it either. Well, there must be a lot of dangers near the castle, otherwise the muggles would have easily come in, right? Hermione's explanation of danger was not very comprehensive. In fact, on the way back, Moon had been thinking about the dangers around the school. The Forbidden Forest and the Black Lake, which are areas where various magical animals are hidden, must be the most dangerous places. Of course, the same is true in the castle, such as the sudden appearance of giant monsters and the three-headed dog in the corridor that can bite the professor. After counting all the dangerous factors, Moon found that Hogwarts did not seem to be very safe. I really hope we can all graduate safely. Don't worry, as far as I know, the school's mortality rate is not very high, but there is a high probability of injury. Hermione's understatement made Moon no longer want to discuss this matter. Moon knew that Hermione had read the entire book Hogwarts, a history of the school. Since this little professor can say this, it proves that the chance of injury in school must be high. By the way, how are you looking for the transfiguration on the terracotta figurines? After Moon proposed to use terracotta figurines to make hand warmers, Hermione has always wanted to use the transfiguration on Snape, on them. For this reason, she not only stared at Snape's face for more than an hour in the spell practice classroom, but also went to the library to look for information. I found 17 books on transfiguration in the library. I've just finished reading 3 of them, but I think I'll find the answer soon. Oh, okay, Hermione reads much faster than ordinary people, and Moon knew this a long time ago, so he naturally didn't question her. While Moon was chatting with Hermione, Ron, Harry and the others gathered around. Moon, I just thought that none of us seemed to know how to make pottery figurines. Hearing Ron's question, and looking at the blank and ignorant eyes of Harry, Neville, and Seamus, Moon had the most basic understanding of the reaction arc of these little wizards. Moon remembered that he had told his roommates yesterday to use pottery figurines to make hand warmers. But they only realized today that they didn't know how to make them. Don't worry, we've been prepared, Moon said, looking at Hermione, and then the little witch hurried back to the dormitory. After a while, she came out with a pile of books. These are all the books on making pottery figurines that I asked my family to send to me, and I borrowed them from the library. Do I have to read all of these? Seeing Hermione holding 7 or 8 books, with 2 large books in between, Ron was instantly defeated. Of course not, if you just want to learn how to make pottery figurines, these 2 books are enough, Hermione said as she took out 2 not very thick books and slapped them on the table. Oh, that's not bad. Ron was obviously relieved. What about the remaining few books? What are they for? Seeing Hermione still holding a few books in her arms, Harry couldn't help but ask curiously. Oh, just in case, I found the history of pottery figurine making, and the methods of making pottery figurines in different regions of Europe. After hearing Hermione's explanation, Several little wizards instantly lost interest in the books in Hermione's arms. Moon didn't expect Hermione to make so many preparations. He just finished reading the 2 books that Hermione slapped on the desk yesterday. As for the remaining books, it was the first time he saw them. Is it really necessary to study their history in order to make terracotta figurines? Of course, the clay has not been collected yet, and everything is unknown. We always have to make more preparations, and reading is not difficult. Moon knew that Hermione's knowledge was very extensive, but he did not expect that this little witch was still refreshing this limit again and again. Well, if you don't mind, Professor Hermione, you can actually guide them. Moon has finished reading the basic manual for making terracotta figurines, and now he doesn't want to study the history of terracotta figurines. But since Hermione knows so much, this knowledge can't be left in vain. Seeing Harry and Ron and others still discussing the source of the clay in the book, Moon felt it was necessary to let Hermione teach them a lesson. This kind of soil can be dug up from the hill behind our house. Impossible, Ron. You just said that the hill behind your house is all red soil. This kind of soil is obviously brown. Stop talking. In fact, there is no special mandatory requirement for the color of clay. The ancient Greeks more than 1,000 years ago have proved this. Oh, spare us, Professor Hermione. Hearing that Hermione actually started to explain the history of pottery figurines 1,000 years ago to a few young wizards, Moon, who was sitting next to him, laughed. He originally just wanted Hermione to explain the steps of making pottery figurines, but he really didn't expect that the ancient Greeks would be involved. After reading the 2 manuals on the basic production of pottery figurines that Hermione brought, Moon knew that this skill was also difficult to master. Although it is similar to wood carving, both of them transform a material into various animal images. But there are still some differences between using a knife and using hands. Fortunately, after Moon experienced the experience of making a magic wand, his hands have made great progress in controlling the subtle differences. So after reading the steps of making pottery figurines, Moon was still very confident in himself. Listening to the resistance of Ron, Harry and others, Hermione finally began to get on the right track. Moon began to review the transformation process of the fire spell next to her. There are 5 chapters today. This is the first chapter. Please subscribe. Chapter 107 Professor Flitwick's Judgment. Although the fire spell is only a basic fire spell that a first-year wizard must master, Moon still made detailed records of every step in the process of transforming it. The birth of the hand-warming spell is the result of Moon's fine-tuning of the fire spell more than 100 times. And all these experiences were recorded by Moon in a 2-inch thick manual. There are detailed records of the syllables, timbre, stress of the spell, as well as the angle, strength, and speed of the wand swinging. Even after many tests by Moon, he vaguely felt that the mentality of the caster should also affect the effect of the spell. Resorting these contents gave Moon a basic understanding of the transformation of the spell again. Moon has never forgotten that he originally wanted to transform the growth spell. It's just that because these spells are more complicated, he chose the fire spell as a second choice to try. Now with these experiences, Moon will help the next step of transforming the expansion spell, growth spell, and rapid enlargement. At 10 o'clock that night, after Hermione had been talking for 3 hours, Harry, Ron and the others ran back to the dormitory while the young professor was drinking water. It's terrible. I thought making pottery figurines would be fun. Yes, now that Hermione has finished talking, I instantly lost interest in them. What should I do? Hearing the conversation between Ron and Seamus, Moon sat on the bed and laughed. In fact, as long as you start, you will find that making pottery figurines is indeed fun. Really? But the steps that Hermione talked about are as sleepy as Professor Binks's class. Ron still couldn't believe it. He had just been yelled at by Hermione several times because he almost fell asleep during the explanation. But this time Ron knew that Hermione did this for everyone's consideration, so he didn't argue with her. Of course it's true. Think about creating something that belongs to you with your own hands. This feeling will be addictive. Hearing Moon's very affirmative statement, several young wizards also became a little skeptical. Well, if the clay can be dug back tomorrow, I must try it myself. Yes, I think it must be very interesting to make a headwig. Oh. But I have forgotten everything Hermione said. What should I do? In the dormitory that night, several young wizards talked until very late. This was the first time they did something together, and in this matter, they got to know each other better. There was a spell class on Tuesday afternoon. After the class, Hermione took out the latest, hand-warming spell. Because it was the first time to modify the spell, Moon and Hermione both thought that it should be foolproof. So they hoped to let Professor Flitwick do a final check. Avoid various unexpected situations in the future of the hand-warming spell. Huh? Is this the fire-making spell? After Hermione took out the jar, Professor Flitwick recognized the spell that had been changed beyond recognition at a glance. The flame of the fire-making spell was originally red, but now it has not only turned into bright blue, but the activity level has also decreased a lot. Yes, Professor, we made a small adjustment to it, is that so? I guess you must have spent a lot of effort on it, Professor Flitwick said, taking out his wand and casting various detection magics on the small flame. Very good. The spell structure is very solid and not easy to be destroyed. The flame is also very stable and not easy to extinguish. Oh, I didn't expect it to be able to do this. It will definitely burn for more than 7 days. Professor Flitwick used various advanced and rare detection magics. Under the effect of these magics, the small flame was scattered into several pieces, then blown all over the place, and finally stretched to a long length. Amid the exclamations of the little wizards, Professor Flitwick gave a very pertinent evaluation. Very good, although this spell does not have much damage, I don't think you want to modify it in this direction, right? Yes, Professor, we have classified it as a kind of life-related auxiliary spell. After getting Professor Flitwick's affirmation, Hermione said the effect of the hand-warming charm. Warming your hands? I'm actually looking forward to it. What are you going to do? Professor Flitwick said as he glanced at the little wizards around him. Finally, he set his sights on Moon. Mr. Scarlett, if I'm not mistaken, you should have cast this spell, right? Yes, Professor. Although he didn't know how Professor Flitwick saw it, Moon didn't deny it. I knew it would be like this. Can you explain to me how you integrated the continuous magic of the petrification spell into the fire spell? Hearing Professor Flitwick's question, the little wizards around looked at each other. They have been modifying the fire spell for the past 2 weeks, but why did Professor Flitwick say there was a magic for the petrification spell? Hermione's expression was even more surprised. She was present every time Moon cast a spell, and she would record every subtle change in the spell. But in all these records, she did not find any trace of the petrification spell. After Professor Flitwick finished asking, everyone's eyes were focused on Moon. Okay, Professor. Moon knew that he couldn't hide his little ideas in front of a real spellmaster. At first, I just wanted to increase the stability of the fire spell, but in the later experiments, I found that the petrification spell seemed to increase the stability, so I integrated this spell into it. Moon took out his wand and began to cast the hand-warming spell that combined the two spells. With a strange way of swinging the wand, a bright blue flame appeared on Professor Flitwick's desk. Oh, you borrowed the long sound of the petrification spell, and its steady and even way of swinging the wand. Yes, Professor. Professor Flitwick just looked at it once and told Moon the 2 little tricks he borrowed from the petrification spell. I didn't expect it to work this way. These 2 little tricks of the petrification spell can indeed suppress the overflow of magic power from fire magic, and can also make it last longer. Professor Flitwick's explanation was exactly what Moon discovered. However, among the young wizards present, only Hermione understood the general idea after the professor explained it once. Harry, Seamus, Ron, and Neville now felt like they were listening to a foreign book. What does the professor mean? Ron poked Harry next to him and asked in a low voice. I don't know, but I think what they said sounds very powerful. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks to Book Friendies for the reward. Today's 5 chapters, Chapter 2. Chapter 108 Black Lake Anomaly. Hand-warming spell. After Professor Flitwick's assurance, Moon had more confidence in it. After Professor Flitwick left, Hermione pulled Moon to demonstrate the hand-warming spell again. It was not until she understood where the petrification spell appeared that she sighed helplessly. In fact, I didn't understand why you spent so much time on a spell before. Now it seems that your approach is actually very wise. Hermione's learning method has always been based on knowing more, so she spends a lot of time in the library every day. Moon's focus on practice when learning magic is not only determined by his own personality. It is also because he needs to lay a solid foundation for these magics before he can face the dangers of another world with more confidence. In fact, I envy you too. You read books too fast. I bet you have mastered more spells than me. Hearing Moon's modest statement, Hermione was obviously relieved. Well, in fact, everyone has their own strengths, right? That's right. After saying that, Hermione went to the library again. She still had 11 books on transfiguration that she found yesterday that she hadn't finished reading. She wanted to finish all the books before the terracotta figurines were made. Harry, Ron and the others had already run away. After not understanding Professor Flitwick's explanation, their hearts had already flown out of the classroom. So in the end, only Moon went to the cabin by the Forbidden Forest to find Hagrid. After winter came, the grass outside Hogwarts had turned yellow and withered. The path leading to Hagrid's cabin became clearer after it was freed from obstacles. When Moon saw Hagrid again, he was studying the 2 pots of carnivorous flowers. Oh, why didn't the little one come? Seeing that there was something missing on Moon's shoulder, Hagrid and Fang both showed disappointed expressions. Bong has found some new friends recently, so I didn't find it either. Well, you must bring it next time. I prepared a lot of sticky insects. Woof woof. After Hagrid finished speaking, Fang also barked twice. Oh, and yeah, it also misses that little guy very much. Okay, I will, Moon said, and he also reached out and stroked Yaya's dog head. He wanted to explain for Bengbeng. Next time I will definitely bring it here. You know it's too cold in winter, woof. Hearing that Yaya was not angry with Bengbeng, Moon felt relieved. Yaya can play by itself. Come and see these 2 little guys. They really have a lot of seeds. The little guys that Hagrid was talking about this time were naturally the 2 pots of carnivorous flowers. After the flowers of the horizontal grass completely withered in winter, they began to breed seeds with all their strength. Now, a big bag has bulged in their flower walls. It's all seeds inside. I'm sure I can grow a big field next year. While Hagrid was talking, Moon looked at the 2 carnivorous flowers carefully. The 2 seed bags on them were already larger than Moon's fist. It was estimated that there should be hundreds of seeds in each. Are you sure it can be planted here? After roughly figuring out the number of seeds, Moon asked with some concern. Don't worry, I've already chosen a spot on the Forbidden Forest. Planting them there will also help me curb those little spiders that like to run around. After a brief understanding during this period of time, Moon already knew that Hagrid liked to put all kinds of things in the Forbidden Forest. Now he not only arranged the location of the carnivorous flowers, but also thought of their food sources. This made Moon have to cite Hagrid's efficiency. Are there a lot of spiders in the Forbidden Forest? Thinking that more than 200 carnivorous flowers must require a lot of insect food, Moon was still a little worried. Well, there was actually only one at first, and then I found a companion for it, but I didn't expect them to be so fertile, Hagrid said and moved the carnivorous flowers to a place far away where there was still sunshine. Now it's good, I don't have to worry about them running around anymore. Hearing Hagrid say this, Moon couldn't help but be a little curious about how many spiders there are in the Forbidden Forest. After making sure that the 2 water bottle plants were exposed to the sun, Hagrid returned to the house and found some tools. Let's go. Professor Sprout has told me that you need the black soil under the Whomping Willow. Right, Whomping Willow? Is it near the castle? Since joining Professor Sprout's herb club, Moon has known all kinds of magical plants. Whomping Willow is one of them. According to the book, this magical plant is generally used by wizards as a protective force. Its function is similar to that of a tamed troll, and it is generally used to guard or protect some secret things. Yes, this big tree is in the other direction of the Forbidden Forest. I think it must be to prevent some animals from running to the castle, Hagrid said as he picked up a shovel and a pickaxe, and Moon took a sack. It seems that it is still very dangerous near the castle. After listening to Hagrid's introduction, Moon recalled his discussion with Hermione. The mortality rate of the school is not very high. This sentence has always been imprinted in Moon's mind. Yes, I don't know what happened these 2 days, they are not calm at all. After leaving Hagrid's cabin, you can see the vast Black Lake. After hearing Moon say that the castle was dangerous, Hagrid also thought of what happened in the Black Lake in the past 2 days, and pointed in that direction helplessly. The Black Lake is not peaceful. Moon felt vaguely that he seemed to know something. Yes, there is a big squid in the Black Lake. It was originally very peaceful, but for some reason in the past 2 days, it has been trying to run to the shore. Hearing Hagrid's explanation, Moon knew that this big squid was Bonbon's new friend. You don't know, I have driven away several waves of little wizards and told them not to get close. It will be very troublesome to be dragged into the water by that big guy. Hagrid was very distressed about this matter. especially because some little wizards were very rebellious. The more you don't let them do something, the more they will do it. Hagrid was introducing to Moon all the way how he had fought wits and courage with the little wizards again and again in the past 2 days. And Moon, who knew the whole story, had been playing the role of a listener. After Hagrid talked all the way, Moon decided to go back and warn Bengbeng that he must run away when playing with his big friend. After introducing the experience of driving away the little wizard 7 or 8 times, Moon and Hagrid walked to their destination. The whomping willow in the distance was very tall, and each branch was very thick. Moon couldn't imagine how painful it would be to be hit by this guy. But since he knew it was a whomping willow, Moon naturally wouldn't get close. After coming near the whomping willow, Moon had already discovered that this piece of soil was exactly the clay he was looking for. The dark brown soil is right here. Okay, I'll dig it. You wait by the side. After Hagrid finished speaking, he picked up a shovel and started working, while Moon observed the situation in the entire area. He found that the closer the soil here is to the whomping willow, the darker the color, and the soil used to make Snape is similar to the root of the whomping willow. How did the predators take this soil back? Aren't they afraid of the whomping willow? Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for the reward from Book Friend D's. Today is the 3rd of 5 chapters. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Mysterious Separation Liquid. Hagrid helped Moon dig a whole sack of clay, and finally helped him return it to the Gryffindor common room. After coming out of the common room, Moon was about to thank him, but Hagrid started to hesitate in the corridor as if something happened. Moon, if you don't have anything to do on the weekend, can you come to my place? Weekend? Of course. In fact, Moon's time is already full every day, but he will not refuse his friend's business. Okay, see you on Saturday. Hearing Moon's very straightforward agreement, Hagrid happily made an appointment to meet after lunch on Saturday. Moon did not ask Hagrid what the matter was. After leading him down the constantly changing stairs, he watched Hagrid leave the castle. It was just around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and Hermione should still be looking for information in the library. Harry went to practice Quidditch. Seamus and Neville didn't know where they went, and only Ron was playing wizard chess in the common room. After finding that the staff was not complete, Moon did not rush to start making pottery figurines. He asked Ron to take care of the clay and left the common room. Today, Moon has to go to the potion classroom to clean up. The 6th grade potion class should end at this time. In addition to cleaning, Moon also plans to try potion analysis today. After more than a week of preparation, Moon now has a general understanding of potion analysis. This complex magic requires not only tools for making potions, but also the corresponding analysis spells and the necessary separation of liquid medicine. In elementary potion analysis, Sigmund first proposed the use of separation of liquid medicine to speed up the process of potion analysis. I really don't know what these potion geniuses are thinking. Moon never thought that some herbs with low medicinal value would have such a great effect. In the chapter on separation of liquid medicine in the book, Sigmund explained 3 different potions prepared from herbs. The first is the sneeze root herb liquid. The liquid extracted from the stems and leaves of this plant can separate the metal materials in the potion. The second is the wormwood herb liquid, which has a strong purification function. It can block the substances in the potion that do not meet the needs of the magician from the analysis process, making the whole process cleaner and more executable. The third type is the narcissus root liquid, which is not as good as the above 2 in terms of purifying potions and separating metal materials. However, it can absorb the tiny particles in the potion and differentiate the specific components of the liquid. After the adsorption is completed, the corresponding potion is used to analyze the spell, and these gathered potion particles can be operated. After reading all the contents in the book, Moon decided to use the narcissus root liquid for separation first. Compared with the other 2 herbs, Moon knows more about narcissus roots. More importantly, he can get a certain amount of narcissus roots from the greenhouse. After using clean up to clean the entire potion classroom, Moon directly took out the narcissus root separation liquid he made in the herbal club this week. This liquid only needs to be washed, squeezed, and filtered to get a lot of narcissus roots. I hope you can use it. Moon said, and came to the place where he usually made potions in class. He first added a drop of black potion brought from Xilin to the crucible. Then, according to the proportion, add twice the amount of narcissus root extract. Use the thinnest stirring rod to mix the two thoroughly. When the narcissus root extract is completely dissolved in the medicine, light the alcohol lamp under the crucible. The temperature requirements for potion analysis are very strict, because different potion ingredients have different temperature requirements. So Sigmund proposed the method of slowly hitting the flame from low to high. In this process, the more temperature-sensitive potion materials are, the first to be absorbed by the narcissus root extract. What Moon needs to do in this process, in addition to ensuring constant stirring, is to constantly test various analysis spells. The whole process must be continuous and cannot be interrupted. This has very strict requirements on Moon's magic output. After trying 3 times, Moon finally got the first potion ingredient image. The primary, potion analysis, can only know the ingredients and raw materials of the potion. The proportions and refining methods, as well as more advanced things, are all in the intermediate and advanced potion analysis. The method of obtaining potion ingredients through analysis is also very magical. After the medicine is successfully separated, the analysis spell cast is also correct. Then the image of the potion raw material will appear in the operator's mind. After trying more than a dozen spells, Moon saw a small white flower in his mind. Its shape was very similar to the chrysanthemums that Moon knew, but Moon was sure it was not a chrysanthemum. While Moon was thinking, his stirring action paused, and the spell connection was also stuck. So the 4th drop of potion was vaporized again. It seems that Professor Sprout is right. This kind of magic is really difficult. Moon only brought half of the potion from Xilin, about 20 drops. But now he wasted 4 drops and got an unknown potion raw material. This forced Moon to temporarily stop the experiment. Although Moon has only taken the first-year potion class, he knows that the most basic potions generally have 7 or 8 raw materials. Not to mention some advanced and complex potions, most of them have more than a dozen raw materials and complex refining techniques. Review today's experience again, find out the mistakes, and try again next time. After analyzing the potion 4 times in a row, Moon's forehead was slightly sweaty. He knew that he had no energy to do it again. So he stopped in time, and after using the cleaning spell to clean the entire operating table, he left the potion classroom. Shortly after Moon left, Snape also came to the classroom to check the sanitation results. However, he smelled a special smell in the classroom as soon as he came today. Although Moon only experimented with 4 drops of potion, each time it was vaporized in the middle. This resulted in a slight trace of potion smell in the potion classroom. This is not the content of my class. Snape first sniffed it lightly with his nose, and then immediately identified the source of the smell. Accurately coming to the operating table that Moon had just left, Snape bent down and smelled it again. It's here. Although it is cleaned very clean, there is still the smell of daffodils and separated liquid. After Snape finished speaking, he took out his wand and chanted a very unfamiliar spell to the cooled crucible. Potion condensation. A green light fell on the crucible and disappeared in an instant. After Snape waited for a long time, there was still no trace of potion on the dry pot. That's not right. I should know all the raw materials of potions in the wizarding world. I have a cold. There are 5 more chapters tomorrow. Please subscribe. Chapter 110, The Use of Fire Dragon Leather Gloves. After leaving the potion classroom, Moon quickly returned to the common room. He first found the quill in his newly written potion analysis record book. After redrawing the small white flower he got in the potion classroom on parchment, Moon wrote down all his experiences this time. Although the process of potion analysis this time was not smooth, Moon also gained a little. An unknown white flower. He didn't know what it was now, but he could always find out what it looked like. Especially since Moon had met the first little magician on the thorn, he felt that it was not far from unveiling the magic veil of another world. There was also the reason for the failure of potion analysis this time, and he had to make a detailed analysis. In addition to the lack of deep understanding of potion analysis, the continuous and unstable output of magic power was the biggest difficulty Moon was facing now. After reviewing the game, Moon summed up his 2 major problems, and then what he needed to do was to make continuous improvements. But there was no time for him to think tonight. Because his friends had all returned, they were chattering around the clay. Hermione, why don't you tell me about the production process again? I promise I will listen carefully this time, because he was only busy dozing off last time. Ron didn't remember Hermione's explanation of the production process of the terracotta figurines, so he could only ask for help again. First, take the water and mix it into clay according to the proportions. Then I will slowly explain it. Maybe you will remember it better this way. Hermione's statement was unanimously agreed by several young wizards. While they were mixing the clay, Moon also came over. The first step is to make the mold, which is usually divided into several parts, such as the head, body, and limbs, Hermione said and glanced at Moon, who was standing next to her. Let Moon do this step because he has experience in wood carving. Several young wizards agreed very much, and Moon did not refuse. He took off the loose and inconvenient wizard robe, rolled up his sleeves and started making the mold for the terracotta figurine. The second step is to make the mold. After Moon makes the mold, you will be responsible for filling the clay into it, and then compacting and smoothing it. Oh, this step is easy. I can do it, Ron answered very confidently. But what to use to compact and smooth it? Harry found the problem. You can use my wood carving tools temporarily. They are similar to clay tools, but you have to be careful. The knife is very sharp. Moon said that he had already molded a cat head, and then he grabbed another piece of mud and prepared to mold a cat's paw. Hermione's eyes flashed after seeing the cat's head. Although she had known that Moon's carving skills were good, she didn't expect that he could make a prototype so quickly. Moon didn't think it was a big deal. After really getting started, he found that playing with mud was similar to carving wood carvings. It even seemed easier to make pottery figurines, because the plasticity of mud is much stronger than that of wood, and it is also much easier. Aren't you going to draw eyes on it now? Harry felt a little strange after seeing that there was only a lonely cat head. It's not necessary now. Carving is a step that can only be carried out after demolding and trimming. Harry, you didn't remember anything at all. Hermione now has a clear understanding of her classmates. Not only do they not listen carefully in class, but they also don't review after class. This forced Hermione to remind them again and again the key points of making clay figurines. Making pottery figurines is a relatively happy process. In addition, everyone is doing it, so the whole process is very fast. In less than 2 hours, 3 groups of different small pottery figurines were successfully made for each person. Because it was the first time to make it, Moon knew that there would definitely be some failures, so he made 2 more for backup. Hermione's cat, Harry's owl, Ron's mouse, Neville's toad, Seamus's salamander, Moon's niffler, and finally the bouncing trumpet niffler. After trimming and carving each clay film, the last thing to do is to fire it. Because the size of these pottery figurines is relatively small, the firing time cannot be too long. According to the answer Hermione got from the book, 24 hours of firing is just right. The container for firing the pottery figurines is the huge fireplace in the common room. So the dragon leather gloves can be used like this. After learning that the terracotta figurines would be fired in the fireplace, Seamus volunteered to take on the important task of placing the terracotta figurines into the fireplace. Watching Seamus wearing the dragon leather gloves and enjoying placing the terracotta figurines one by one into the fireplace, Moon knew that this little wizard seemed to have an extraordinary obsession with fire. Okay, if there is such a job next time, remember to find me. After placing the smallest niffler farthest from the flame, Seamus happily promoted himself. There will be a next time? No, this time is already tiring enough. After finishing all the work, Ron and Harry were exhausted and collapsed on the sofa in the lounge. They didn't expect that making terracotta figurines would be so tiring. Maybe there will really be a next time. Moon secretly used the cleaning spell to clean up the area around the fireplace and expressed his opinion. That's right. If we succeed in making clay figurines the first time, we might as well go and guess the first prize in the Daily Prophet. The chances are at least higher, since the experiment with the hand-warming jar, Hermione now has a basic understanding of making clay figurines. Hearing what Moon and Hermione said, Ron sighed helplessly. Merlin bless us, we must succeed this time, don't worry. Even if we fail this time, we can dig up the soil and make it again. After knowing the source of clay, making clay figurines is no longer a problem for Moon, so he doesn't care much about this failure. While Moon and several little wizards were talking, other people in the common room gradually gathered around. In fact, these people were very curious about what Moon and the others were doing at the beginning. Later, when they saw that the little wizards here were playing with mud, they all left. It was not until now, after cleaning up, that a few little wizards who couldn't suppress their curiosity came over. Making clay figurines? What can this thing do? George and Fred were the most curious among the little wizards. After listening to Moon's explanation, the two twins seemed to have discovered a new world, and shouted that they must be called next time. You can use the clay figurines to make a fart bomb. No, it's better to make a boxing clay figurine. And the person holding it will definitely not be able to defend against it, or make a fake me and let it go to class instead of me. Moon didn't know how so many strange ideas came into the twins' minds. Anyway, he didn't associate the clay figurines with pranks at all. Fortunately, my head is not dizzy after the cold, otherwise I can't even think of what to write. 5 chapters tomorrow, please subscribe. Chapter 111 Quirrell's Club. After putting the figurines in the fireplace, Moon didn't have to worry about the rest. His roommates volunteered to take care of the figurines, and they even arranged a sequence for the shifts. Ron said that this shift was to prevent someone from using their figurines to make missile fireworks. Moon naturally didn't refuse, although he didn't think the twins would do that. But as a younger brother, Ron should know his twin brothers better than he did. During the firing process of the figurines, Moon resumed his usual schedule. When he got up in the morning, he found that Harry had fallen asleep on the sofa in the common room. This time period should be the time for Harry to take care of the figurines. Moon woke Harry up and asked him to go back to the dormitory to sleep, and he sat on the sofa in front of the fireplace. Oh, okay, I'll go to sleep for another 2 hours. Thank you for your hard work. Harry stood up from the sofa and stretched. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I need to read here. Watching Harry walk towards the dormitory in a daze, Moon took out his notebook. Records of growth magic transformation and summary of potions analysis. The study of these two magics occupied all of Moon's morning time. When Moon added 2 more pages to the record of growth magic transformation, his roommates got up one after another. At this time, Moon also put down his quill and prepared to have breakfast with everyone. You can't eat too much on Wednesday morning. This is a lesson Ron learned after vomiting again and again. Because after breakfast, you will immediately be influenced by the strong smell of garlic, which makes it difficult for some little wizards who don't like garlic to adapt. The same is true for Moon. He only drank half a bowl of Hagrid's biscuits in the morning. Because Professor Quirrell only reads in class and rarely punishes students. Therefore, most of the little wizards do not have a strong sense of awe for the defense against the dark arts class, and their attitude is relatively casual. However, Moon recently discovered that Professor Quirrell seemed to pay more attention to him. During class, he always noticed that Professor Quirrell's weird eyes would always drift to where he was. Moon was very sure that his feeling was not wrong. After the bell rang, Moon was stopped by Professor Quirrell again. The roommates who were originally traveling with him all showed helpless looks. Moon had no choice but to stay in the classroom, but he still deliberately kept a distance from Quirrell. Mr. Scarlett, I don't know if you are interested in joining my club, Defense Against the Dark Arts Club? Professor, are you sure? With Ron's introduction, Moon already had a basic understanding of the Defense Against the Dark Arts class at Hogwarts. Since the mysterious man was rejected by Dumbledore, the professor of Defense Against the Dark Arts at Hogwarts has basically changed every year. And it is said that every professor will have all kinds of strange accidents during his tenure. In order to deal with various emergencies, the professors of this course simply don't have the energy to open the Defense Against the Dark Arts Club. Of course, although I may not have much time to teach, this club is a groundbreaking thing, isn't it? Quirrell tried his best to maintain a kind smile when he spoke. But Moon became more puzzled by his stiff smile. Professor, that means there is no one in your club now. That's right. You will be the first member of the club. Seeing Quirrell showing an expression that he was the only one who could join him, Moon took 2 steps back. I'm very sorry, Professor, I don't think I have any outstanding points in Defense Against the Dark Arts. If you don't object, I'll leave first. After nodding slightly to Quirrell, Moon quickly ran out of the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. Although he didn't know why Quirrell had such a strange idea, Moon was very sure that he had no interest in Defense Against the Dark Arts at all. Moon's understanding of the dark arts was only some dangerous magical creatures described in the textbooks. Cornish elves, Grindylows, werewolves. These things with only pictures and words made Moon's understanding of Defense Against the Dark Arts very ignorant now. Of course, the most important reason why Moon rejected Professor Quirrell was that he thought he could not learn anything from Quirrell. Although he didn't stay in Hogwarts for a long time, Moon gradually found that if he wanted to learn magic and improve his strength, It was far more practical to do it than to study. After Moon left the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, Quirrell immediately showed a pleading expression. Master Quirrell just shouted a sentence to the empty classroom, and his body was stunned for a moment, and then he quickly ran back to the office on the second floor. The Defense Against the Dark Arts professor's office and classroom are connected. After Quirrell returned to the office along the white marble stairs, he closed the door heavily. Then he took out his wand and tapped it several times in the office as if he was worried, as if he was casting some kind of magic similar to a defensive barrier. "You idiot, don't talk to me casually in the castle." The hoarse voice of the second person came from the empty room. "Yes, sorry, Master, I just didn't expect this student to be so disobedient." "Humph, it's normal for a little lion to be rebellious, then what should I do next?" The office returned to calm again. The owner of the hoarse voice seemed to be thinking about something. After a long time, the voice suddenly sounded again. "I can feel that this little lion is very special, but the club is indeed easy to make people suspicious. Let's give up this approach for the time being and proceed according to the original plan." After the hoarse voice sounded, it was as if he fell into deep sleep. Quirrell called out several more times like begging, but got no response. Quirrell's club invitation was just a small episode for Moon, and he quickly forgot about it. After the herb class on Wednesday afternoon, Moon came to the potion classroom as usual. It had only been 2 weeks since the 1-month confinement. According to the regulations, he had to come here to clean up every day. Because he had just experimented with potion analysis yesterday, Moon had not yet fully summarized the failed experience. So today Moon only used clean up, cleaned the classroom and left. But what Moon didn't know was that not long after he left the potion classroom, a potion professor in a black robe also came here. The potion classroom is located on the basement floor of the castle. When Moon went down the stairs to the first floor, Cedric just came out of the herb club. "You're just here, look. These spore powders should be enough for us to experiment once." Seeing Moon appear, Cedric immediately smiled. And then took out a bottle full of green powder. "So much? It seems that the little mushrooms are growing well." Moon carefully took the glass bottle, shook it gently and said, "Of course, I also added a little dragon manure fertilizer to them according to your method. I didn't expect it to be so useful. Now new mushrooms are coming out of this oil every day. It's good as long as it's useful, but have you thought about what potion you want to make with them?" Chapter 112 Magical Calming Potion. Last time in the club, Moon and Cedric discussed the use of spore powder. Later, after Moon's suggestion, Cedric went to the library to look up relevant potion information. "You are right. I think it is a bit of a waste to use spore powder to make a sleeping potion," Cedric said and returned to the herb club with Moon. This classroom happened to be at the corner where the stairs came up. Because today is not a gathering day, there are only 2 of them in the herb club. You can take a look. "This is an anesthetic and sedative potion I found in the library." Cedric handed Moon a piece of parchment with 3 potion names and uses written in blue ink. The first one is Relaxation Potion. This potion is mainly used to calm and soothe the patient's irritability and anxiety, but excessive use may cause permanent and irreversible sleep. The ingredients for potion refining include moonstone powder, hellebore syrup, tarragon, lavender, and mint. The refining method is blank. Moon looked at the blank space on the parchment and looked up at Cedric curiously. "I don't have access to the detailed methods of refining these 3 potions now. If I can decide which one to refine, I will go to Professor Sprout to get a book loan note." "Okay." After Moon finished speaking, he continued to read the contents of the parchment. The second potion recorded by Cedric is Forget Worry Potion. This potion is a magical sedative potion commonly used in St. Munger's Magic Hospital. It can make people forget some painful or unpleasant memories. It is a common potion for some wizards with serious mental trauma. The raw materials needed to refine the Forget Worry Potion are valerian, sleepy beans, and mistletoe berries. The third potion is Living Hell Decoction. This is an extremely powerful sleeping anesthetic potion, and its effect is similar to unconsciousness in a state of suspended animation. To refine this potion, you need to prepare wormwood infusion, tranquilizer grass powder, and lace wings. I haven't seen these 3 potions, but are you sure spore powder can be used in them? The names of these 3 potions were the first time Moon had seen them, so he was not sure. Cedric was extremely excited. He took the parchment and pointed to the raw materials of the relaxation potion. The lavender in the relaxation potion has a calming effect. Then he pointed to the Forget Worry Potion. This sleepy bean from South America is a powerful calming fruit, and the lacewings in the last hell decoction have a strong anesthetic effect. Moon looked at the ingredients of these potions one by one, and then said thoughtfully, "So you want to use spore powder to replace these things and see if you can make similar potions?" "Yes, the cost and difficulty of refining these 3 potions are very high. If the spore powder can succeed, I will definitely be shortlisted for next year's competition." Seeing Cedric so confident, Moon couldn't discourage him. He just thought for a while and continued, "Then what we need to do now should be to conduct a purification test on the spore powder, and then we can determine who it can replace," Moon said, pointing to the ingredients of the potions that Cedric had just circled. "I thought so too, but spore powder is a new thing after all, and I haven't figured out how to conduct the improvement test yet." Hearing Cedric say this, Moon stared at the glass bottle containing spore powder again. Although the sleepy face fungus has completely changed into another appearance after the 2 of them, it is still a low creature living close to the surface. This causes its spore powder to be inevitably contaminated by various soils, sandstones, and impurities. Thinking of this, Moon recalled the elementary magic potion analysis he has been studying recently. This book mentions 3 types of separation liquid, one of which seems to be able to deal with this situation. "I have a way, maybe it will work." After explaining the role of the separation liquid to Cedric, the little wizard excitedly prepared to make this simple potion. After leaving the club, Moon quickly returned to the common room. Now it should be exactly 24 hours, and the pottery figurines that have been fired for a whole day should be out of the oven. Sure enough, when Moon returned to the common room, he found that all the little wizards were waiting for him in front of the fireplace. "What's going on?" Moon approached and asked Hermione next to him. "I said to wait until all the matches are burned out, but Seamus said he's not afraid, so." After listening to Hermione's explanation, Moon looked at Seamus, who was wearing a dragon leather hand and happily stretched his hand towards the fireplace. He really likes fire, yes, although it's hard to understand. While Moon and Hermione were discussing, Seamus had already taken out the terracotta figurines one by one and placed them on the pre-prepared stone slabs. "Be careful, don't burn the floor." Looking at the hot terracotta figurines, Ron unconsciously took a step back. "Don't worry, Ron, we have 2 masters who are proficient in the repairing spell here," Harry said and looked at Hermione and Moon. Ron also glanced at the 2, and then said helplessly, "Okay." The attention of the young wizards present was focused on the terracotta figurines. Hermione took a stopwatch and said that it must be cooled for a sufficient amount of time. Click. When the stopwatch ended, Ron couldn't wait to smash the sealed jar with his name on it. "It's broken. Scabbers has no tail." Ron took out a cute little mouse from the pottery jar, but its tail was broken. Seamus opened his pot soon after, and a lively little lizard appeared inside. However, because the claws were too thin, the little lizard's originally pointed toenails were all broken. Hermione's cat-shaped pottery figurine had the same problem. When she trimmed the cat's ears, she deliberately pinched them thinner for the sake of beauty, which resulted in only half of the cat's ears left. Fortunately, there were no major problems with the owl, toad, and niffler. When Harry was making the pottery figurine, Hedwig, he was lazy and did not trim the owl's claws, so he luckily escaped the situation of broken claws. The pottery figurine, Riff, was because it was simple to make. And when Neville was making it, he forgot the steps that Hermione said, which led to him putting the pottery base into the fireplace. This also preserved the claws of the toad pottery figurine. The shape of the niffler pottery figurine was well preserved. Because of his experience in wood carving, Moon knew that the thinner the part, the easier it is to break, so he reinforced the claws of the niffler. "What should I do? My 3 mice are tailless. Actually, I think they look good without tails." Harry picked up his only intact owl figurine. Hermione also stroked the 3 cats with broken ears with some regret. "It's okay, at worst we can do it again this weekend, thanks to the book Friendies for the reward. There will be 5 chapters tomorrow. Please subscribe." Chapter 113 Transfiguration Practice. Although there are some flaws in the production of the terracotta figurines this time, it does not affect their basic use. After Moon lit the hand-warming spell for each terracotta figurine, the young wizards each tried the first use of the hand warmer. Wednesday midnight happened to be an astronomy class, and the hand warmer was completed today, which also added a rare warmth to the young wizards. "I think the tailless rat is also good, at least it won't make me like Malfoy." Ron is very proud now. He has 2 terracotta figurines with a hand-warming spell, lit in his pocket and one in his hand. Compared with Ron and Harry, who are full of warmth, the Slytherin students who take the astronomy class with a Gryffindor are all shivering. Malfoy even hid behind Goyle and Crabbe, using their bodies to block the cold wind. Harry agreed with Ron's statement very much, and he also lent a half-finished owl terracotta figurine to Lavender Brown. Hermione also lent a cat with missing ears to her roommate Parvati Patil. So the first-year wizards of Gryffindor were listening carefully and happily in this astronomy class. Professor Sinistra's lecture on astronomy knowledge finally jumped out of the solar system today. Students, look north with a telescope. There are 3 neatly arranged stars. That is the belt of Orion. Orion is the main content of tonight's astronomy class. This is also the first time Moon has learned about the constellations in this world. Professor Sinistra talked a lot about Orion. Although Moon didn't know what the use of learning these constellations was, he also wrote them down one by one. In ancient Greek mythology, Orion represents the hunter Orion. It symbolizes bravery, determination and persistent pursuit of goals. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Orion is often related to death and rebirth. It is considered a symbol of Hades, combining astronomy and mythology as the class experience summarized by Professor Sinistra. She believes that this is the only way to motivate the enthusiasm of the little wizards in class. She even combined the constellations with a divination course that the young wizards could only learn in the 3rd grade. Students, Professor Trelawney's astrology is very special. She once told me that people born under the influence of Orion will have a very strong curiosity and the spirit of exploration. After the second half of the astronomy class, almost all the young wizards could not hold on. The Slytherin students were naturally because of the worsening weather and the howling cold wind. The Gryffindor students were drowsy because of these boring contents and the warm pottery figurines. Until Professor Sinistra reminded that Orion might be a required content in the Astronomy Owl practical test. Hermione listened more seriously, while Harry and Ron simply folded a corner of the page in the book. The Owl exam is still a long way from us, so there is no need to take notes now. Moon also followed suit and folded a corner of the page in the book. He was not very interested in the astronomy of this world. In his opinion, it is better to return to Xilin and study the irregular crimson moon in the sky than to study the stars in this world. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the astronomy class ended. When Moon and his group returned to the dormitory, Bengbeng had already fallen asleep holding a little Bengbeng. The firing of the small pottery figurine did not cause any breakage problems. But it was just because it was baked for a long time that it changed color a little. However, this did not affect Bengbeng's love for the small pottery figurine. Unlike Bengbeng, Neville also left a toad pottery figurine for Lifu. However, Lifu did not seem to like the warm pottery figurine, and it avoided the iron box containing the pottery figurine from a distance. Neville was a little unwilling. After returning from the astronomy tower, he saw Bengbeng and Ron's mouse sleeping with the pottery figurine in their arms, so he put Lifu back into the iron box. "It's very warm here, you will definitely like it, right, Rabbi?" "Goo, no, I hate fire." Moon heard the toad protest as soon as he lay down on the bed, but he did not remind Neville. Rabbi has been lost by Neville dozens of times since he came to the castle. If he wants to stay away from the fire, it should be a very easy thing. Hermione has been studying issues related to transfiguration before making pottery figurines. Moon was originally very curious about her research progress. But the little witch kept it a secret and said that she would wait until Thursday to tell him. It was not until the first transfiguration class arrived that morning that Professor McGonagall announced that they would learn the beetle color change magic. Moon understood why Hermione said she would explain it today. "So you want to use the color change magic on the pottery figurines?" "Yes, I have read a lot of related transfiguration books, and this should be the simplest way. As a branch of transfiguration, the color change magic is relatively simple to master, so it has become a must-learn content for first-year wizards." "Okay, Miss Granger, Mr. Scarlett, listen carefully in class." Professor McGonagall was as strict as ever in class. After reminding Hermione and Moon, McGonagall took out a pitch-black beetle and demonstrated the color-changing technique. "Remember to imagine the color you want in your mind first, and then recite the spell, color alteration. You must focus and not be distracted, otherwise the beetle is likely to appear in your mouth." Professor McGonagall's explanation was very careful. After saying all the key points, she asked the young wizards to start trying on their own. "Be careful not to be distracted. Mr. Weasley, 2 of your beetle's legs have been broken. Harry, Take your time, you should make it change color, not let it fly. Mr. Longbottom, where's your beetle? Seamus, remember, don't burn a beetle again. There are always various mistakes in magic practice, and Moon and Hermione are no exception. Miss Granger, I think if you only change one color at a time, you should have succeeded long ago. Mr. Scarlett, where's your beetle? Don't tell me it's lost too. No, Professor, I finished practicing and lent it to Neville. Okay, remember to let me check it in advance next time. Okay, Professor. When Professor McGonagall went to check on other students, Moon observed Hermione's practice. Yellow, white, black. Do you want to make a calico cat? Hermione's beetle color changing exercise was actually completed at the beginning. It's just that later she wanted to master more, and after performing the color changing technique many times, the beetle turned back to black again. Yes, I wanted to make the cat figurine more beautiful, but I didn't expect that the color changing technique would fail after more than 3 colors. Thanks to Book Friendies for the reward. There will be 5 chapters tomorrow. Please subscribe. Chapter 114, Bounce of Confidence. Hermione would never admit failure, even if it was a simple color-changing exercise. In order to get the purest tricolor, Hermione went to the library immediately after the transfiguration class. I'm going to look for a feasible solution for multiple color-changing magic. Can I go to the spell practice room to experiment in the afternoon? Of course, Moon would never refuse Hermione's cleverness and eagerness to learn, because he often needs to consult a knowledgeable Hermione when he encounters problems. On Thursday afternoon, there was originally a class that all students liked very much. Flying class. In this outdoor class, Hermione was still studying the books related to multiple color-changing magic that she borrowed from the library at noon. Many classmates would fly over her head on broomsticks, which made it difficult for her to calm down and read. So the little witch showed an unhappy expression. The other unhappy person was Malfoy, of course, because of Harry flying at the highest altitude. As for the little wizards like Moon, the flying class no longer had the initial excitement. After entering winter, the words high altitude and high speed became cold and freezing. Even though they have learned to control the flying broom, the young wizards still like to fly slowly at low altitude. Only Harry enjoys the feeling of flying high. In sharp contrast to him is Neville. After more than 2 months of practice, the young wizard who had an accident in the flying class finally got the flying broom up last week. Now he can also ride the flying broom for a simple glide. However, because of the psychological trauma of riding the flying broom for the first time, Neville's flying height is the lowest among all the young wizards. Moon actually wants to fly higher, but the broom provided by the school is of poor quality. As long as the broom exceeds 10 feet, it will shake. This makes Moon have to stay in the low-altitude flying team. After the flying class on Thursday, there will be no other classes. After returning the flying broom to Madame Hooch, Hermione hurried over. I found a good method, which should be effective. On the way to the spell practice classroom, Hermione explained the method she found in the library. Layered color change magic? Is that the name? Yes, this magic is a bit stupid, but it should be the most suitable for us. After Hermione explained it, Moon knew why Hermione said it was a stupid method. Layered color change magic is to perform a color change on the object of the spell, and then cast another color change on the specific area to cover it until the requirement is met. This is like putting clothes on a terracotta figurine. Moon thought for a while and gave an appropriate example. Yes, I only need to cast a completely black base color on the cat terracotta figurine, and then cast yellow and white color change spells in different places, then I can get a real calico cat. Then this should be relatively simple. Is it necessary to practice it again? Moon didn't think that such a simple magic would let Hermione come to the classroom to practice. Actually, this method is a bit stupid, but it also has difficulties. Seeing that Moon was confused, Hermione explained the key points she read from the book. The first layer of layered color changing magic is very simple, but if you want to cast the second layer of color changing magic based on the first layer, you must ensure that the first layer of magic is very stable. After hearing Hermione's explanation, Moon understood it instantly. In the casting of this magic, the first layer of color-changing magic is equivalent to the foundation, and it must be ensured to be stable enough. Only in this way can multiple layers of color-changing magic be cast on the first layer. When Moon and Hermione came to the second floor, Bengbeng had already arrived here one step ahead. Seeing that Mrs. Norris was also holding a small Bengbeng in her arms, Moon just smiled, and then cast a smooth fur on each of the two little guys. Seeing that the two little pets moaned comfortably, Moon turned and walked into the classroom and began to study the experiment, layered color-changing magic. Although Hermione had just explained the difficulty of this magic, it was only after the experiment that Moon truly understood how important a stable first layer of color-changing magic was. In 3 consecutive experiments, Hermione made the magic fail when casting the second layer of color-changing magic. The cat figurine also turned back to its original mud color. How about I try it? While Hermione was doing the experiment, Moon also finished reading the book she borrowed from the library. Magic Painting, Make Your Home Warmer. This is a book about magic painting decoration in the room. The author is a wizard who offers a magic painting training class. Okay, then do you want to use the clay figurine cat or your Niffler? Niffler, it has fewer colors after all. The colors of creatures like Niffler are only black and flesh-colored, and Moon does not plan to add other colors. So he took out a Niffler clay figurine from his pocket and began to cast magic. Because he did not master the color-changing magic well enough, Moon only cast a small piece of magic each time. He cast the color-changing magic 3 times for the palm-sized Niffler to turn the clay figurine black from top to bottom. Bengbeng, who was playing with Mrs. Norris in the distance, showed a disgusted expression after seeing the black clay figurine in Moon's hand. Bengbeng was actually very happy these 2 days, but also a little distressed. He was happy because he received 3 small hand warmers. It was distressed because it found that there were 3 more figurines of the same image on Moon. Last night, after Moon explained several times that this was not another Niffler, but a Bengbeng, the little guy returned to the tree nest to sleep with doubt. Bengbeng's uneasiness has continued until now. It was not until it saw the Niffler in Moon's hand turned into a black lump that it instantly became confident. Shiji, mine is still better looking. Meow. Yes, that one looks like a mouse. Moon ignored the chatter of the 2 pets. After performing the first layer of color change, he found where the magic was unstable. You mean after performing the color change spell in batches, the places where these magics connect are very unstable? After Moon finished explaining, Hermione also picked up the pitch-black Niffler figurine and observed it. But she didn't see anything. But seeing Moon's confident look and the experienced summary of the failure just now, she knew that what Moon said made sense. To perform the first layer of color change on the cat figurine, Hermione needed to chant the spell 5 times. This resulted in more connections on her first layer of color change, which was also the main reason why she couldn't perform the second layer of color change. It seems that the best way is to successfully perform the color change in one go. In this way, the magic structure of the first layer will definitely be very stable. Chapter 115 Twins Prosthetic Eyes. Moon, I think your idea is right, but we have only been in contact with the color change technique for a day, and we have just completed the beetle-sized practice. Now I am afraid that it will be difficult to make the figurine succeed in one try. While Hermione was thinking about the review, Moon had already practiced on the Niffler figurine many times. In the 7th experiment, the black color on the Niffler figurine was almost half. In the 15th practice, only one small claw was still the color of mud. In the 23rd practice, the entire figurine was dyed black. Hermione had just checked the specific situation of her cat figurine. Your habit of not listening to people every time is really bad, I know, but I really succeeded in one try. Can't you just listen to me? Don't change the subject, okay, but I really succeeded. Moon Scarlett, I saw it, you don't have to say it again, okay? After the experience of strengthening the practice of spells, Moon can now easily master some simple spells. Color change, magic is not difficult in nature. Moon was unable to succeed in one try at the beginning only because he had a short learning time. After practicing again and again, Moon became more and more proficient in this magic. Okay, now the first layer is okay, you can add another layer. After Hermione checked the Niffler figurine herself, she returned it to Moon angrily. She found that the first layer of color change magic was not very difficult to achieve, but she just couldn't do it now. The second step is to add a brown nose and paws to it, Moon said, holding the wand and tapping the nose of the figurine. Color change. As the spell was recited, the tip of the figurine's nose changed a little, and then slowly expanded to the entire nose. This method really works. After Moon successfully cast the spell, he recited the second spell on the figurine's paws. That afternoon, when leaving the spell practice classroom, Hermione got a calico cat with missing ears, and Moon also got a Niffler figurine with strange colors. Because the color of the calico cat is not fixed, the requirements for the second layer of color change, are not high, as long as it is yellow and white. Although the Niffler is an animal with only 2 colors, there is a clear boundary between the brown nose, claws and the black on the body. Moon did not have a good grasp of this boundary, so his figurines looked a bit messy. That night, after returning to the dormitory, Bengbeng laughed at Moon's figurines. "Chi, your Niffler is ugly, it's just ugly now, one day it will definitely become as beautiful as Bengbeng." "Chi, impossible," Bengbeng said as he took out a little Niffler from the pocket on his belly. "Chi, this one too." Seeing Bengbeng's pleading eyes, Moon had no choice but to take out his wand and cast smooth fur on the little Niffler figurine. Although there was no hair on the little Niffler figurine, Bengbeng was satisfied and jumped back to the tree nest after Moon cast the spell. On Friday morning, after Moon got up early, he started another day of study. This afternoon, he had agreed with Cedric to try to purify spore powder in the potion classroom. Moon didn't want to waste his free time on Friday afternoon, so he also studied elementary magic potion analysis. He hoped to perform another magic potion analysis while Cedric was purifying. The Gryffindor common room was not quiet early in the morning today. Because the College Cup will be held next week, the players of the Gryffindor team appeared in the common room yawning in the morning. "Oh, the master of the 6-time champion, I have seen you several times in the morning. Do you want to be the next Percy?" George yawned in the sofa and looked at Moon with his eyes closed. "How is it possible?" "Percy will definitely faint when he sees the troll," Fred said, and looked over with his eyes closed. Moon found that the 2 twins had a fake eye on their eyelids, which could not be seen without careful observation. "How is this done? Why does this fake eye move?" Moon said closer, and George and Fred immediately opened their hazy eyes when they heard it. "SHH, keep your voice down, it's not good if Wood hears." "That's right, since seeing Harry's flying talent, Wood is convinced that we can win this year's competition, so we can't stand changing the competition plan again and again. I really hope Harry can delay for a while, so that we can enjoy a little more sweet dream here." After the twins finished explaining, they all closed their eyes and lay on the sofa. But the pair of artificial eyes were still rolling on their eyelids. Moon was very obedient and didn't disturb the 2 seniors, but he was very interested in the pair of artificial eyes. Now the color change of the terracotta figurine is almost successful. If a pair of smart artificial eyes can be installed, it will definitely be more realistic. While Moon was talking to the twins, Wood went to the bathroom to find Harry again. In fact, Moon had reminded Harry once in the morning. But the little wizard fell asleep again with a terracotta figurine Hedwig. "It's too cold outside, I'll sleep for a while." Moon actually understood Harry's feelings very well. Since the terracotta figurine, the temperature in the dormitory has risen a lot instantly. The winter quilts have the magic to trap people, and now with the addition of hand warmers, the magic power of the quilts must be stronger. After the twins just took a nap, Wood accompanied Harry down the dormitory stairs. "Okay, Harry, be more alert, look at George and Fred, they are waiting for you with their eyes wide open." When Wood's loud voice rang throughout the lounge, 2 players also walked out of the girls' dormitory. Angelina Johnson and Alicia Spinnet, they are the pursuers of the Gryffindor team. "Oh, everyone is here. Let's go, partners, we will definitely find a way to defeat Slytherin today." While Wood was talking, Moon gently touched George with his foot, and then the 2 twins woke up at the same time. "Oh, that's right, Wood, you are so right. Yes, we must defeat Slytherin." The 2 Wheeleyes who had just woken up immediately took over Wood's words, which made Moon secretly cover his mouth and laugh for a long time. "That's right, we need to have this kind of fighting spirit," at Wood's urging, all the team members came out of the portrait door one after another and rushed to the court. During breakfast, Moon met Harry again, who had returned from training. The hand warmer is very useful. They are all reluctant to let go. When the team members returned to the auditorium, Moon had actually discovered that Harry's 3 owl figurines were not perfect, but they had been divided up by the twins and the 2 girls. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, Snape's Arrangement. Since coming to Hogwarts to learn magic, students may encounter various emergencies every day. It may be an accident when learning new magic, or it may be a prank by the students themselves. The professors at Hogwarts have long been accustomed to this kind of situation that may occur at any time. These unexpected accidents are actually more like the spice of life for the professors. Because what they do every day has not changed for several years or even decades. Classes, grading homework, preparing club affairs, preparing professional course materials, tutoring senior exams, checking the living conditions of juniors, and promptly stopping the little wizards who violate the rules. These things make up an ordinary and busy day for professors. After all the time is occupied by various things, fixed class content and mode will undoubtedly make the professors more relaxed. For the little wizards, this can also preview in advance and learn magic better. This class mode has been going on in Hogwarts for many years, and students have long been accustomed to it. The 2 consecutive potion classes on Friday are the same for the Little Lions of Gryffindor. Although it is annoying, you can't avoid it, so you can only join it. Hermione was one of those who joined the class more thoroughly. She would prepare for the content of the potions class one day in advance. Of course, she did this for almost all the courses, and so did Moon. However, there was a little change in the potions class this Friday. Professor Snape's legs had improved a lot. Although his walking posture was still a little weird, the cloak behind him had floated a little. Boom, boom, boom. Snape walked to the podium and quickly hit the desk with his middle finger joint several times, attracting the attention of all the little wizards. Today I will make an exception and explain a new potion knowledge to you. I hope you all bring your brains with you, instead of leaving them on the court or at the dinner table. When Snape spoke, his expression was still very normal in the first half of the content, and his eyes were looking at the seats where the Slytherin students were sitting. But when he spoke the second half, his eyes had already swept to the seats where the Gryffindor little lions were sitting, and his tone became more severe. Seeing this scene, Malfoy smiled unconsciously. The Gryffindor students had long been accustomed to Snape's way of teaching with a hint of hatred. You can temporarily close your textbooks today, and take out your quills and notebooks. After Snape finished speaking, he put 2 fingers of his right hand together and pointed upwards, then waved forward lightly. A huge scroll that was originally hanging in front of the classroom unfolded directly. This is potion analysis. The Slytherin students seemed to have known what class they would have today, so they were not surprised at all when the scroll was opened. But most of the little lions of Gryffindor had never heard of the term potion. Of course, this excludes Moon. But Hermione seemed to know something. Moon noticed that the little witch was obviously happier when she saw the content of the scroll. This is a 5th-year course. I never thought I would be able to get involved this year. After Hermione roughly browsed the content of the scroll, she turned sideways and whispered to Moon next to her. Moon was in no mood to pay attention to Hermione at all. He vaguely felt that Snape's class today seemed to be targeting someone specifically. Remember, potion analysis is indeed difficult, but there are ways to master it quickly, Snape said as he gently waved his right hand again, and a group of words appeared just below the huge scroll. Potion perception training. Okay, today's class ends here. I hope you can all remember these contents. Instead of asking me to repeat them again in the 5th grade, Moon was actually helpless about Snape, a professor who ended the get out of class halfway through the content. However, he still controlled the urge to ask questions, because he could feel that the targeting of this class was really too strong. After coming out of the potion classroom, Hermione's excitement had not dissipated. This should be the most valuable knowledge I have learned this year, but you said the same thing when you learned petrification spell last time. Before Moon had time to answer, Ron directly helped Hermione recall what happened a month ago. Ron, you don't understand. The most valuable knowledge is supposed to be constantly refreshed like this, otherwise we don't know how to improve, right? Hermione has become immune to Ron's special hurtful tone. After she finished speaking, she immediately looked at Moon standing aside. In Hermione's opinion, Moon should be the one who can understand her meaning the most. Moon, what are you thinking about? Seeing that Moon did not respond but was thinking about the problem, Hermione became curious. Oh, I was wondering what the magic perception training that Snape just mentioned is. This? It should be a magic training method. If you want to know, why don't you go to the library to check it out? Maybe there will be an answer. Thank you for reminding me. I'll go now, and you, won't you come with me? No, the content of today's potion class is enough for me to digest for a long time. I have to record them all now. Okay. After a quick lunch in the first floor auditorium, Moon came to the library alone. Moon has memorized most of the potion catalogs in the public open area, and there are no books related to magic perception here. So Moon went directly to the comprehensive book area this time. Magic Perception Special Training, Unlocking the Unknown Secret. Finally, Moon found this book at the bottom right of the third bookshelf in the comprehensive book area. The material of the book is still very new, and there should not be many people borrowing it. The book is less than an inch thick, and is actually more like a pamphlet. After finding that there is not much content, Moon did not lend it out, but went to the library browsing area to read it carefully. The person who can write this book must have made great achievements in potions. After carefully reading the contents of the book, Moon had decided that the person who designed this training method had an extraordinary understanding of magic. The magic perception training method introduced in the book is not only for potion analysis, potion making, alchemy, ancient rune research. These complex and profound fields that require extremely high production technology can all be mastered with the help of magic perception training. Unfortunately, the book did not mark the author, which made Moon unable to continue exploring. The time should be coming soon. Maybe I can try a magic perception training today. After reading this booklet, Moon glanced at the large pendulum clock hanging on the wall of the library. This afternoon is the potion class for third-year Hufflepuff students. Moon has made an appointment with Cedric to purify the sleepy face fungus spore powder after the potion class. Since the purification process was not very troublesome, Moon planned to try out what he had learned today. Chapter 117 Magical Perception Training. Because Moon's potion classroom cleaning confinement has not yet ended, so no one would suspect that he would come to the potion classroom in the basement every afternoon. This gave Moon the opportunity to use the tools in the potion classroom to complete his experiments. When Moon walked into the classroom in the afternoon, Cedric was packing up the potion he had just learned. Snape has been gone for a while. Wait for me, it will be ready soon. While Cedric was talking, he had already cleaned up all the tools for grinding medicine. You actually found so many hellebore. Yes, there are a lot of these things in the greenhouse where the third grade class is held. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know that it can actually make separation potions. Cedric is now making the hellebore separation potion that Moon explained to him yesterday. This potion is introduced in potion analysis as being able to absorb some metal impurities, and it can be used to purify the spore powder of sleepy fungus. Making hellebore separation potion is actually very simple. Just cut off all the slender leaves of the hellebore and wash them thoroughly. Then squeeze the rhizome to get the juice inside, and then heat it in a crucible to remove excess water. Take a look, is this the finished product? In less than half an hour, Cedric had made a whole bottle of transparent thick liquid. It's the same color and shape as recorded in the book. There should be no problem. After getting Moon's affirmative answer, Cedric was instantly relieved. Although it was relatively easy for him to obtain these hellebore, there were not many opportunities to practice in the potion classroom, so he unconsciously sped up the production process. The next step is to put this potion and spore powder into the crucible for heating and purification. Right, yes, remember that the ratio of spore powder to hellebore potion is 1:2. Okay, Cedric's experience in refining potions is obviously much richer than Moon's, and he is also very fast in operating the entire set of potion tools. After seeing that the spore powder and separation potion were correctly added to the crucible, Moon was also ready to start his first magic perception training. Keep stirring until the water evaporates completely, then filter it with a filter, Moon reminded again. Don't worry, you can go do other things first. Cedric also noticed Moon's movements on another operating table, so he gave Moon a reassuring look. Watching Cedric's skilled movements, Moon took a set of potion-making tools, tin crucible, brass scale, special alcohol lamp, glass measuring cup. These tools can just be used for the simplest magic perception training method. On both sides of the brass scale, place the crucible and the glass measuring cup with water added, and make sure the brass scale must be horizontal. Then use the alcohol lamp to heat the crucible continuously. When the water inside evaporates continuously, the glass measuring cup on the other side will slowly sink. What Moon needs to do is to cast the floating spell to keep the weight of the glass measuring cup balanced with the crucible on the other side. Of course, this process is not simple, and deviations are common. In order to ensure the training effect, Moon also needs to keep an eye on the precise scale on the brass scale to ensure that his practice is effective. Are you sure it's okay to do this? Seeing Moon panting and the glass measuring cup slipping off the brass scale several times, Cedric, who just had to stir constantly, asked with concern. It should be fine. Moon once again used the levitation spell to stop the glass measuring cup from falling to the ground. Okay, although I don't know what you are doing, you must pay attention to safety. I will. After Moon finished speaking, he added water to the measuring cup and the crucible again. He had just conducted 5 training sessions. Although each session was not very long, the scale of the brass scale was gradually shrinking. This made Moon know that his magic perception training was developing in a good direction. Wingardium Leviosa, as the alcohol lamp burned rapidly, Moon had to continue and steadily maintain the levitation spell. The scale on the brass scale had swung from 5 or 6 grids at the beginning to only 3 or 4 grids now. When Moon conducted the 6th training, the water in Cedric's dry pot had completely evaporated. The impurities in the spore powder of the sleeping face fungus were also condensed together to form some large granular substances. Next, what Cedric needed to do was to filter out the purified spore powder through the filter. During the entire purification process, Moon and Cedric both wore thick masks. They both knew that the toxicity of the spore powder was getting stronger and stronger, so they needed to be more careful. And at this time, Snape actually returned to the potion classroom. Humph! I knew it, Snape had just stepped into the potion classroom and had not finished a sentence when he immediately found something wrong. He hurriedly lifted his sleeves to cover his mouth and nose, then quickly came to the medicine cabinet, took out a bottle of brown potion and poured it directly into his mouth. After doing these operations, he immediately took out a thick mask and put it on his face. Cedric Diggory, take your poisonous powder and leave here. Snape has never lost his composure like today. Although it is unknown what potion he drank to eliminate the toxicity of the spore powder, his face is still very ugly. Okay, Professor, I'll be there right away. Cedric's purification work had already reached the last step. When Snape called out, he was putting the spore powder into a clean glass bottle. When Moon saw Snape coming in, he immediately took the measuring cup and crucible off the brass scale. While Cedric was cleaning up, Moon was also cleaning up in a proper manner. Professor, I'll leave first. After carefully cleaning all the purification tools, Cedric put the spore powder bottle into his pocket and looked at Snape. Professor, I'm done cleaning too, and I'm leaving. Moon was about to leave the potion classroom with Cedric, but Snape suddenly stretched out his wand to block him. Moon Scarlett, don't you think you should explain what happened just now? Professor, Moon. Cedric was about to cover for Moon, but Snape's fierce eyes immediately glared at him. Diggory, I don't have much patience, or do you think I would eat a stupid little lion? Cedric had been taught potions by Snape for 3 years, so he knew that since Snape said so, there would not be much punishment. I'll wait for you outside. Cedric gave Moon a firm look and left. In the end, only Snape and Moon were left in the empty potions classroom. Chapter 118 Cedric's Secret Base. After Cedric left, Snape performed a thorough clean-up on the entire potion classroom. After making sure that there were no spores of the sleepy face fungus left, Snape took off his thick mask. Were you doing magic perception training just now? After only 2 people were left in the potion classroom, Snape questioned Moon without any hesitation. Oh, Professor, you saw it all, didn't you? Although Moon didn't like Snape, the other party was a professor after all, and he didn't want to lie. What a stubborn little lion, Snape said, circling Moon and carefully looking at the student in front of him. Mr. Scarlett, do you know that it is against school rules to analyze unknown potions in school? Professor, I only remember that it is written in the school rules that students are not allowed to drink unknown potions of unknown origin. After being inspired by Hermione, Moon had already recorded all the school rules. It was precisely because of this that he came to the potion classroom to conduct the experiment of analyzing potions. How, so you know that the potion you are carrying is an unknown potion? Snape's face unconsciously showed a hint of ridicule when he spoke. Moon only then realized that he had fallen into Snape's language trap. Sure enough, the professor is still more cunning than the student. When Moon was regretting, Snape stretched out his slender right hand. The potion is confiscated. Give it to me, Professor. I did not violate the school rules, and this bottle of potion is very important to me. Although he fell into the other party's language trap, Moon did not plan to hand over the potion directly. In his opinion, this bottle of potion belongs to his private property and no one can take it away by force. It's very important. Are you sure? Snape said and looked at Moon with a questioning look. Yes, Professor, although this bottle of unknown potion was intercepted by Moon from Night Owl, it is related to Moon's understanding of magic in another world. Okay, but don't you want to know the real effect of this potion? Snape really said his true intention at this moment. Moon's eyes lit up instantly after hearing this. "Professor, do you want to analyze this potion? Give it to me. I don't want to talk to you anymore." Seeing that Snape did not deny it, Moon took out half a bottle of black potion from his pocket. "Professor, this is it." When Moon took out the potion, Snape was obviously nervous. But after noticing that there was only half a bottle, his expression suddenly became serious. "There's only this much? How dare you analyze it yourself? Do you think you are much stronger than the troll?" Moon habitually ignored Snape's sarcastic words. "Professor, the ingredients of this potion should be more complicated. I have obtained a herbal diagram. Okay, stop talking." After Snape took the potion bottle, he gently shook the bottle in a circle. "I don't think the answer obtained by a first-year wizard will be helpful to me." Okay." Hearing the potion master on the opposite side say this, Moon did not continue to speak. Although Moon got a small white flower from the potion analysis, he himself did not recognize this flower. This made him unsure whether the potion analysis he performed was correct. After a careful inspection, Snape was very sure that the potion in his hand was the new unknown potion he had been looking for. After firmly grasping the potion bottle in his hand, Snape immediately returned to his original cold and serious appearance. "I want to take this away." Snape's tone was not like borrowing, but more like an order. "Okay, Professor, can you tell me the answer after you analyze it?" Moon did not mind the tone of the potion professor, he just wanted the answer. "Mr. Scarlett, you just need to perform the confinement honestly. As for the potion, you will definitely know what you should know." Seeing Snape obviously speed up his pace to return to the office, Moon laughed happily. Although he didn't know why Snape was so contradictory, he knew that the answer to this potion would soon be revealed to him. After coming out of the potion classroom, before Moon walked out of the basement stairs, Cedric stopped him at the corner. "How is it? Snape didn't punish you?" Seeing Cedric's concerned expression, Moon smiled and shook his head. "No, and he helped me a lot." "Help? Are you sure?" In Cedric's opinion, Snape not punishing Moon was already a good result. As for helping students, except for Slytherin students, Snape would not be so kind. Especially Moon is a Gryffindor little lion that the other party hates very much. Of course, Snape is actually a good person. Hearing Moon say this, Cedric became even more confused. Snape helped the Gryffindor little lion. The Gryffindor little lion said Snape is a good person. This is definitely the biggest lie that has appeared in Hogwarts this school year. But seeing that Moon was indeed fine, Cedric did not continue to ask. In any case, the potion classroom must be unusable now. Yes, I think Snape will keep a close watch next. Although Snape is now entangled with a bottle of unknown potion, Moon does not think that he will give up the inspection of the potion classroom. Especially after what happened today, Snape's supervision will definitely be more strict. "Don't worry, I have been thinking about where I can continue to make small living hell potion, since I came out." Small living hell potion? Is this the name of the new potion you are going to make with the spore powder of the sleepy face fungus? Yes, I just carefully checked the purified spore powder, and I found that it has a very similar effect to the lacewings, so the living hell potion is the easiest potion to learn from. After Moon's reminder, Cedric found 3 magical sedative potions in the library. The most difficult one to make is living hell potion. This is a powerful anesthetic potion that can make people appear to be in a state of suspended animation after drinking it. And the most important raw material of the potion is the lacewings. If that's the case, then the brewing time of small living hell potion must be very long. Yes, the original living hell potion needs a whole month to brew, and we have to start all over again now, so it will definitely take longer. Okay, then where is the place where you can brew the potion? Oh, it's a hidden abandoned classroom. Very remote and absolutely safe. The abandoned classroom that Cedric found was discovered by accident during his 3 years of wandering. It is located in a small room on the left side of the innermost corridor of the basement. Let's go, I'll take you to have a look first. Chapter 119, Insomniac Snape. The place where Cedric chose to make potions was very simple. Because this abandoned classroom was located in the corner of the basement, it was very dark and humid. Even the lighting equipment had to be brought by them. Fortunately, there were no flammable debris here, and moss grew on the floor because of the humid environment. In this way, Moon and Cedric did not have to worry about the risk of fire. After all, the time for refining the potion this time would be very long, and the safety of the fire source must also be considered. Unlike students who had to find a place to make potions, Snape wanted to make potions in his familiar and comfortable office. Although Snape installed his office in the basement of the castle, it could not get sunlight all year round. However, the environment was very quiet and peaceful, which was very suitable for him to concentrate on studying potions without worrying about being disturbed. In this small office, Snape had already prepared a complete set of potion analysis tools. In addition to ordinary crucibles, scales, and special alcohol lamps, Snape also specially prepared potion comparison charts and potion insight glasses. After carefully checking all the preparations again, Snape took out the unknown potion with confidence. The color of the potion is close to black and dark green, the transparency is poor, and the naked eye can see fine impurities, the texture is viscous and the flow speed is slow. Snape's operation of potion analysis is much more professional than Moon. He prepared a very detailed potion detection form in advance, and then kept filling in the potion characteristics one by one in order. The smell is fragrant and pungent, with extremely slight corrosiveness. After Snape sucked out a drop of black potion with a magic hose, he put it on the crucible for odor detection. After confirming that the unknown potion would not be highly toxic, he really started the process of potion analysis. Unlike Moon, who analyzed a potion by guessing, Snape prepared all 3 basic separation potions. And he was operating 3 separation processes at the same time. There are metal impurities. No, this should be the mineral component that the potion originally has. Snape crossed out the first half of this sentence on the form, and then wrote a new one. I don't know how that little stupid lion dared to analyze an unknown potion with only 1 separation potion. After observing the hellebore separation potion, Snape turned his attention to the second wormwood separation potion. Potions are very inert, and the separation and purification process of wormwood is very slow. After writing a note in the potion inertness column, Snape looked at the last separation potion. How did this little stupid lion get such good luck? Snape only glanced at the potion separation experiment in the 3rd crucible, and knew that the narcissus root separation liquid was indeed the most suitable one. I really don't know which idiot made the potion, and even the impurities were not removed completely. No wonder the narcissus root can absorb so many small particles of raw materials. The most notable feature of the narcissus root separation liquid is that it can absorb tiny particles in the potion. And because the purification and grinding of this bottle of unknown potion were not perfect during the refining process, the narcissus root separation liquid obtained a lot of potion raw material residues. This is also the reason why Moon was able to obtain a potion raw material map the first time he performed potion analysis. After discovering that the potion was crudely made, Snape also adjusted the next analysis steps in a timely manner. He needed to remove all the impurities in the potion first to avoid these factors affecting the final analysis results. After having a basic understanding of the unknown potion, Snape was confident in the next analysis operation. The purified potion was separated again, and the resulting substances could be safely used for analysis magic. Knowing that the potion was very inert, Snape used magic to strengthen the flame. However, just when he tested the 7th analysis spell, the potion on the crucible suddenly exploded. Is this a deliberate addition of confusing explosives to the ingredients of the potion? Is this some kind of poison made by a dark wizard? Snape only thought about it for a moment and knew the truth of the explosion just now. We must turn down the flame and conduct a long-term test. On Friday evening, Snape did not go to the faculty cafeteria for dinner, nor did he ask the house elves to bring any food. Because the flame was lit for a long time, the temperature in the potion professor's office continued to rise. In this increasingly hot environment, Snape's mood became worse and worse. How could it be? Isn't this thing extinct long ago? What is this? Is there any new material in the magic world? This kind of flower? Hiss. I remember Professor Slughorn collected one and kept it deep in the basement of Gringotts. Snape's potion analysis work continued until late at night. Finally, he drew 9 kinds of potion raw materials on a blank piece of parchment. After eliminating one that was likely to be an explosive, Snape only knew the names of 3 of the materials. Dong 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 at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, Snape woke up the librarian Madame Pants again. I need all the ancient herbs and potion books, including those worthless books piled in the utility room. I want to read them all. After Snape finished speaking, he immediately turned and walked towards the herbal book area. Madame Pants, who was woken up in the middle of the night, could only follow behind and complain crazily. Professor, you came at night last time and put down a booklet on magic training. Now you come in the middle of the night to look for a herbal book that has long been worthless. Don't you know that I need to rest too? After hearing Madame Pance's loud complaints, Snape's chaotic mind, which was tortured by the potion, regained a little clarity. Okay, then please open the utility room and I will go and see it myself. Although Snape's tone became better, Madame Pance's anger was not so easy to calm down. She took out the key and stuffed it into Snape's room, then turned around and returned to her lounge. Moon didn't know everything about Snape's experiments on unknown potions. For him, now that there is one less thing to do in potion analysis, it is actually a little easier. However, in the process of potion analysis, Moon still learned a lot. Especially when trying magic perception training, Moon found that floating spell seemed to be worth studying in depth. So after getting up on Saturday morning, in addition to disassembling growth spells, Moon focused on floating spell. After there was no direct danger in Xilin, Moon's recent practice of spells was mainly life-related auxiliary spells. After completing the spell dismantling in the morning as planned, Moon came to Hagrid's hut as agreed. The Forbidden Forest guard had made an appointment with Moon on Tuesday to meet today. Chapter 120 Hagrid's Secret. After lunch on Saturday, Moon brought Bumblebee to Hagrid's hut. Just like Moon brought Bumblebee, Bumblebee didn't come empty-handed. He brought a small Bumblebee for Yaya. Oh, is this Yaya's new gift? It's so small and exquisite. Hagrid held a pottery figurine that was about the size of his fingernail and looked at it over and over again. Only when he saw Yaya staring at his hand intently did he put the small pottery figurine under Yaya's feet. For Bumblebee, it took 2 small paws to hold the small pottery figurine. After Yaya pressed it with 1 paw, the shadow of the pottery figurine was completely invisible. Yaya won't break it, will it? Don't worry, this pottery figurine is very strong. Oh, that's good. In fact, I'm more afraid that it will eat it. After Hagrid said this, he no longer paid attention to the 2 animals playing on the ground. Actually, I have something for you too, for me. When Moon was curious, Hagrid had already taken out a dirty little cloth bag from his moleskin coat. This is your spoils of war, spoils of war. After taking the cloth bag from Hagrid in confusion, Moon smelled a strong stench before he opened it. These are the toenails and hair of the troll. I know you defeated this big guy, so I left these things when I helped Professor Snape move them. Thank you very much. After hearing Hagrid's explanation, Moon stopped his hand from opening the cloth bag in time. He had a direct contact with a troll, and the stench of this big guy could even cover up the garlic smell on Professor Quirrell. He didn't dare to imagine whether the 4 creatures in Hagrid's hut would faint after the cloth bag was opened. Well, you didn't call me here just for these toenails, did you? Moon said as he put the small cloth bag under the eaves outside the wooden house door. He didn't want to inhale a few breaths of such air while talking. Of course not. Actually, you know, it was the first time that Moon saw Hagrid stuttering like this, which made him more curious about what was going to happen next. Do you remember what I told you last time about repairing a wand? Of course, before Halloween, when I was carving a pumpkin lantern, you talked a lot about it. Yes, in fact, I called you here today just to ask you to repair a wand. When Hagrid spoke, his 2 big hands kept rubbing, and it was unclear whether he was embarrassed or nervous. Why not find a professional? For example, Ollivander. After all, you know I'm not very proficient in this matter. Ollivander, no, he's too famous. Almost all wizards in the UK will be watching there, not to mention those guys with very good noses. It's not good to be famous, and you have to hide from someone. Hagrid's words made Moon a little confused. Well, actually I don't want others to know about this. It must be kept confidential, the highest level of confidentiality. Do you understand? Hearing Hagrid's serious tone, Moon also nodded solemnly. Of course, don't worry, I won't tell anyone about this, and only, Moon looked around the cabin again after he finished speaking. Only the 4 of us know. Seeing Moon pointing his finger at Boing Boing and Fang Yan, Hagrid suddenly relaxed a lot. Oh, I'm relieved. After all, they won't say anything, right? Hagrid said and took out a small pink umbrella from his other pocket. After he easily pulled open the umbrella handle, a brown one slid out directly. Moon quickly caught the one that was about to fall to the ground. Then he found that there was a trace of fracture in the middle of the wand. Is it broken by human beings? Yes, but they really wronged me. Seeing that Hagrid was a little embarrassed and didn't want to continue talking, Moon didn't ask any more questions. After carefully examining the wand, Moon couldn't help but ponder. Oak wand body, unicorn tail hair wand core, 16 inches long. This was the first time Moon saw such a long wand, but after taking a look at Hagrid's height, he felt that this length was very suitable. Is this Ollivander's work? Yes, but it's really inconvenient for me to ask him to repair it now. Well, actually I just checked it carefully. Because the wand has been broken for too long, the original lines inside have been worn out a lot. Are you sure you don't want to change a wand? After Moon finished speaking, he gently put the wand back on the table. Although the broken wand was well preserved by Hagrid in the umbrella pole, there were still a lot of sawdust falling off. I actually like it very much. If it can be repaired, of course it is the most suitable. Well, if you are sure you don't want to change the wand, then you need to prepare a similar magical oak. As for the tools and glue, I will bring them myself. Actually, I have glue here, Brother Hagrid said, and walked to a large wooden cabinet, opened it and searched around, and took out a wooden long cylinder jar. This is what I picked from the Terminalia truncatula tree. I usually use it to repair some furniture. It's very useful. Moon took the glue jar, stretched out his index finger to stick a little, and then pinched it with his thumb to test it. The adhesiveness is a bit poor. After all, your wand is too long, and you must have more power than ordinary people when you swing it, so you should use mine. The glue that Moon mentioned was the snail grass glue made by Senior Bernard in the Herb Club. After 3 years of continuous improvement by Bernard, this glue has very strong viscosity and does not affect the conduction of magic power. It is a very good magic adhesive material. Okay, I will go find a magical oak, and it should take about a week. Hearing Hagrid say this, Moon also nodded. In addition, to be on the safe side, I will come over on weekends, so that no one will know what I am doing. Okay, thank you very much. While Moon and Hagrid were discussing the repair of the wand, Malfoy received a letter from his father. In addition to daily care, the content of the letter also invited Professor Snape to attend a dinner at Malfoy Manor. This kind of thing happens every 1 or 2 months, and Malfoy has long been accustomed to it. But this invitation is not as simple as before. When Malfoy asked around and finally found Snape in the library's utility room, the professor was still flipping through a tattered potion book. Professor, are you okay? After calling several times without receiving a response, Malfoy's voice gradually became louder. Huh? Draco. What's the matter? Looking at Snape in front of him with 2 dark circles under his eyes and chapped lips, Malfoy was stunned for a moment. Oh, it's my father. He wants to invite you to the Malfoy Manor dinner tonight. Tonight? No, I still have a lot of books to read. Hearing another meaningless invitation to dinner, Snape turned around and continued to study the old potion book from many years ago. Chapter 121 The Stingy Little Witch. When Moon returned again on Sunday night, the Thorn was sailing on the rough sea. As soon as Moon opened his eyes, he saw Xilin using his hands to fix the swinging rope bed. How is it? Is your journey of learning magic going well this time? Of course, it's very exciting. After the two chatted briefly, Xilin went to bed to rest, but Moon couldn't fall asleep for a long time. The journey of studying at Hogwarts was relatively smooth. But on the Xilin side, although it was far away from the war, the problem of how everyone would live next had not been solved. This problem has been bothering Moon until dawn. The next morning, Xilin went out early, and Moon waited in the room. Today is the day when the little witch hiding in the cabin comes to make potions, and it is also the first time for Moon to witness the birth of potions in this world. After a simple breakfast brought by the crew, Chris knocked on Moon's door accompanied by Aunt Whitney. Are you going to stay in this room all the time? Chris was slightly surprised when he saw Moon opening the door. She was still worried that the crew would have some bad intentions, so she called Aunt Whitney up. But she didn't expect that the one who had to stay in the room all the time was a little boy younger than her. Yes, please come in, Moon smiled and made way for the door. Okay, Chris walked in without any courtesy, while Aunt Whitney stood at the door. Since there will be no danger, I'd better stay outside. I really don't want to see your things. Aunt Whitney looked at Moon and felt that the little boy would not cause any harm to Chris, so she stood by the wall outside the door. Okay, whatever you want. Chris didn't stop her when she saw this. After Moon closed the door, he sat in his original position and waited quietly for the other party to start making the potion. But the little witch was obviously not in a hurry. Chris kept staring at the bread, fried fish and porridge that Moon had left after entering the room. Is the ship's doctor eating so well? When Moon saw Chris asking questions, his throat slid unconsciously. The ship doctor is a staff member equipped on almost every ocean-going ship. However, Because real doctors cannot stand drifting on the ship, this position is mostly held by sailors. And Moon's meal is naturally not the breakfast of the ship doctor. According to Gold, the standard of all Moon's meals is exactly the same as that of the captain. White bread with fresh fried fish, oatmeal and berries that Xilin has just eaten. Such food is almost difficult for Moon to eat in Xilin. Well, if you don't mind of course. Before Moon finished speaking, the little witch Chris had already happily sat opposite Moon and picked up the bread and fried fish to enjoy. You don't know, I have only eaten black bread these 2 days, and I haven't seen any meat or vegetables. Chris was talking while eating, and Moon sat next to her and observed her quietly. The little witch had short gray hair that reached her ears, and there was a little trace of fire on the right end of her hair. Her eyes were big, with the same blue eyes as Moon. The complexion on her face was very white, but her hands were even wider, as if they were soaked in some potion. She was about the same height as Moon, but her figure was obviously slimmer. Okay, I'm going to start making potions. Can you take all these things away, after quickly finishing the remaining breakfast? Chrissy unceremoniously ordered the ship Dr. Moon. Hearing the little witch's tone of command, Moon was just stunned for a moment, and then took the whole plate away. Little doctor, the salary on the ship is not very high. In fact, if you want to learn how to make potions, I can teach you for only 5 gold coins. Thank you, no need. Hearing the little witch say this, Moon was a little doubtful whether the other party could really make potions. Ordinary people can't make magic potions at all, even if a magician teaches them personally. This is something that almost every magician knows. And the little witch actually wants to teach a ship doctor to make potions, and charges 5 gold coins. In Moon's opinion, the other party either has problems with the magic he learned or has extremely poor living conditions. Thinking of the little witch's breakfast, Moon felt that the latter possibility was more likely. Whatever, after seeing Moon finish packing up, he just stood aside quietly. Chris replied unhappily, and then took out various tools from the messenger bag. Metal racks and trays, brass stirring rods, white carbon blocks, low crucibles, and 4 small bags of different powders. Moon was very familiar with the tools for refining potions. Although the little witch's set of tools was similar, Moon was still attracted by 2 of them. In the potion class at Hogwarts, the first-year wizards used special alcohol lamps to heat the crucible. There was also a valve on the outer wall of this alcohol lamp, which was specially used to adjust the size of the flame. The little witch prepared charcoal blocks. It was a white charcoal block that Moon had never seen before. This made Moon have to take a curious look. Another thing that attracted Moon's attention was the crucible. The little witch's 2-ear crucible was not only much shorter than the one Moon had seen in Hogwarts, and it seemed that a layer of black paint was deliberately painted on the outside. Remember not to make any noise in a while. I don't have much materials prepared, and I can't afford to fail at all. Moon noticed that Chris deliberately turned the crucible while talking. It was also this little action of hers that made Moon see that there was a small piece of the crucible that had fallen off, and the inside was actually golden crucible. After discovering the material of the crucible, Moon looked at the little witch with an even weirder look. Moon actually saw this kind of expensive crucible in the window of the crucible shop in Diagon Alley. 300 gold galleons, the price is very expensive. And the little witch in front of him ate black bread and used a golden crucible. This made Moon even more curious about the potion she was going to make next. Moon had seen the introduction of the crucible in the library of Hogwarts. Different types of crucibles and potions are matched with each other. Hogwarts designated tin dry pots for first-year freshmen. This type of crucible will not easily change the form of the potion, and the temperature requirement is not high, which can prevent the potion materials from being affected by improper brewing. As for some experienced pharmacists, they will choose to use brass crucibles. Because its thermal conductivity is faster, it can shorten the time of making potions by half, so it will require the efficiency of magicians in refining medicine. There are also silver crucibles, which are relatively expensive and are mainly used to refine potions related to the lunar cycle. As for the more expensive gold crucible, because it is easy to clean and not easy to corrode, it can ensure the purity and quality of the potion, so it is generally used by potion masters. It can't be that this little witch is a potion master. After recalling the introduction of different crucibles, Moon's mind flashed an idea that he was not sure of. But then a move by the little witch completely dispelled Moon's idea. Click. Click. This little witch actually used flint to light the white bone charcoal. This is too unmagical. Chapter 122 Rescue Potion. After seeing the little witch strike the flint dozens of times but still failed to light the charcoal, Moon hid behind and quietly used his magic wand to cast a fire spell to light the oil lamp next to him and handed it over. No, this special charcoal must be ignited in the most primitive way, otherwise it will definitely not succeed. The little witch didn't know that Moon was also a magician at this time, and she had been trying her best to hide the fact that she knew magic. Seeing the little witch's refusal, Moon no longer insisted. After putting the oil lamp back, he stood by and couldn't help thinking. Moon is now more and more sure that the little witch in front of him must have been deceived. Fire is fire, even if its ignition method is different, it does not prevent it from being just a source of heat energy. Moon used to use flint when he was in Xilin before, but after learning the fire spell, he used this stone to practice slingshots. After Moon waited for a long time, the little witch Chris finally rubbed the flint to produce a few sparks, igniting the white charcoal on the iron plate. Hush! Before the potion was even started, the little witch's face was already flushed with fatigue, and beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. Moon did not pay attention to the little witch's embarrassment. He was staring at the burning white charcoal at this time. The flames they emitted were not red or yellow, but a light green. And in the process of the flame burning, there were also wisps of black smoke floating up. Soon the whole room was filled with an attractive and fragrant smell of fireworks. After the flame was lit, the little witch did not take time to rest. After setting up the crucible, she immediately poured a green potion into it. After the potion boiled, Chris clamped the crucible with pliers and poured the potion on the prepared flame shell. Hiss hiss! The flame shell made a hissing sound after it came into contact with the potion. Then Moon saw some snail shell powder flowing down the potion. It was crushed with the potion. The flame snail shell was very hard. Brad had tried to crush it with the night owl scimitar but failed. Moon finally used the softening spell to get a small amount of powder. After collecting all 5 kinds of powder, the little witch put them into the crucible one by one according to the order and proportion. Moon stared at it intently. He found that 2 of these powders were materials with water. After the little witch added them to the crucible, the whole pot of potion began to become viscous. After starting to make the potion, Chris had no energy to pay attention to Moon. She was very alert and kept an eye on the changes in the potion in the crucible. One hand kept stirring, and the other hand was still turning over the white carbon block under the crucible. Hold on. Listening to the little witch constantly cheering herself up, Moon laughed beside her. After receiving Snape's potion class and practicing potion analysis, Moon's understanding of potions has far surpassed that of the first-year wizards. Watching the potion in the golden crucible slowly taking shape and the smell gradually becoming normal, Moon knew that it was the critical finishing stage. The little witch Chris obviously knew that it was a critical moment, and she stirred faster and faster. However, an accident still happened. Chris was only concerned with turning the white carbon blocks but forgot to add new ones, which made the light green flame smaller and smaller. When Chris found out, it was too late. While she was hurriedly taking out the white carbon blocks from her messenger bag, Moon cast the fire spell for the second time today. The flame returned to normal, and the color changed from light green to yellow, while the potion did not change at all. The little witch Chris did not notice the change in the color of the flame. She was just very glad that she finally caught up. I'm awesome. The flame didn't go out this time. Moon just chuckled at the little witch's boasting and didn't care. He was now staring at the final changes in the potion in the crucible. When the 2 pieces of white charcoal added by the little witch Chris were half burned, the potion finally took shape. I didn't expect that I would succeed in one try. After the little witch said something subconsciously, she noticed that Moon was still there, and immediately returned to her serious expression. Ahem, actually making potions is quite easy. Seeing that Moon just smiled and didn't say anything, the little witch didn't say anything. While waiting for the potion to cool, she tied up several small cloth bags filled with powder and put them into her messenger bag one by one. Moon's wand was hidden under his cloak at this time, maintaining the state of casting. Okay, seeing that you are observing so seriously, do you really want to learn? The little witch Chris was very happy today. She originally prepared 3 standard doses of potion ingredients, but she didn't expect to succeed in one try. This made Chris wonder if the little boy in the room brought her good luck. So after packing up everything, Chris smiled at Moon again. Yes, that's right, Moon did not deny that he had observed very carefully. Even Chris himself did not notice the change in the flame, but he noticed it. I know your ship doctors are not very skilled. It is understandable that you want to learn some potion making, but my potion making is very difficult." When Chris said this, she couldn't help but think of Moon's delicious breakfast. So she rolled her eyes again and showed a cunning smile. "Don't blame me for not telling you that you can't learn my potion, but if you really want to learn, I can also teach you, 2 gold coins each time, very cost effective, no need, thank you." Moon did want to learn how to make potions in this world, but after observing the other party's entire refining process, he was very sure that he had learned it. "Well, if you really want to learn, remember to come to me. The tuition is absolutely reasonable." After Chris closed the door and left in disappointment, Moon revealed the wand hidden under his cloak. At this time, the tip of the wand was pointing to the ceiling. He first took the copy of the huge sea chart and spread it on the table, and then lifted the casting state of the floating spell. When the magic disappeared, all the materials that were originally fixed on the ceiling fell on the sea chart. 5 small piles of different powders, plus half a piece of white carbon. Shortly after Chris left, Xilin returned to the room. Seeing that Moon had been staring at the things on the sea chart, he also came over to look at it. "Huh? This is..." After seeing the half-burned white charcoal, Xilin frowned and picked it up. He put it to the tip of his nose and smelled it lightly, and immediately threw it back on the table in disgust. "This is human bone charcoal. What do you collect it for? Human bone charcoal? Are you sure?" "Of course, I've burned a lot of it. When it burns, it produces a green flame and has a bad smell. It's a green flame, but it smells good. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Identifying the Ingredients of the Potion. Moon did not continue to discuss the material of the white carbon block with Xilin. Moon was just curious about the white carbon block he had intercepted from the little witch. If he really wanted to make potions, Moon still thought that alcohol lamps would be more suitable. "Do the magicians here have any hobbies in making potions?" Moon said as he put the white bone charcoal aside. "I don't know. I haven't seen potions being made either, but the person you asked me to find is really on the ship." Xilin went out in the morning to find Gold to ask if there was anyone who was very familiar with herbs and animals. Gold said there was a weird old man on the ship. He had only been with him for half a year, but he said he had been to many places. While Moon and Xilin were discussing, the first mate Karen had already led a weird old man to the door. "Sir Scarlett, this is Mimir, the most knowledgeable person on the Thorn." Karen bowed to Moon and saluted before stepping aside. "Oh, handsome young man, you asked Mimir to come. There must be something important." Tantrical singing. The old man in front of him was very ordinary, much older than Xilin. His hair and beard were all gray, and the most eye-catching thing about him was that he was carrying a huge bamboo basket. But when he started talking, Moon and Xilin both showed strange expressions. "Sir Scarlett, Mimir is a troubadour, and he usually speaks very strangely." Seeing Moon's inquiring eyes, the first mate Karen hurriedly explained. "Troubadour. This kind of artist who mainly raps poetry and music is not common in Xilin." Xilin had seen one or two when he was a soldier before, but this kind of person who speaks in a troubadour singing style as soon as he opens his mouth is also the first time he has seen someone who speaks in a troubadour singing style. "Okay, if I want to communicate with him, do I have to sing it?" Moon asked curiously. No need, young man." Karen was about to respond, but Mimir suddenly took over. Seeing that the other party could communicate normally, Moon stepped aside and revealed 5 piles of powder on the table. Mimir, I would like you to identify what these materials are." After hearing Moon's order, Mimir stepped forward. He first stretched out 2 fingers to pinch a little powder, smelled it first, and then put it in his mouth to taste it. "Oh, I have seen it, under the huge hill. It is the scales of the ground armor beast." Bard singing. "Ah, we meet again, the magical flower on the island. Selma, you are the pride of the tribe." Bard singing. Mimir quickly identified 5 different powders. The scales of the ground armor beast, Selma flowers, ant grass, batfish swim bladder, and flame snail shell. When the ant grass appeared in the powder, Moon was sure that the little witch was making a potion to heal cuts. There are still 2 raw materials for the potion to heal cuts that Moon learned from Hogwarts that he has not found. Healing fern and elf tears. The scales of the ground armor beast and the Selma flower that Mimir has identified should correspond to these two things. I know about the ground armor beast. Most of them live in the mountains and are very good at digging holes. Hard rocks can't stop their claws. After hearing the name of the ground armor beast, Xilin explained to Moon. What about the Selma flower? What is it? After watching Mimir taste several powders, Moon also pinched the powder called Selma flower and observed it. After tasting it, Moon determined that it had a similar effect to elf tears. Elf tears are a relatively difficult material to collect in the British magic world. The price of elf tears in the pharmacy in Diagon Alley is 50 gold galleons per ounce. I don't know about Selma flowers, but I know about tribesmen. After the explanation of the first mate Karen, Moon learned that there was a group of primitive people living together in the form of tribes on the Vina Islands. They were called tribesmen by the people who later migrated to the island. After Karen finished explaining, Moon asked Mimir again. Young man, this is a secret of the tribe, and Mimir doesn't know much either. While Moon was looking for someone to identify the potion, Chris had already given the newly brewed potion to Lance. Most of his injuries are from swords and he fainted because of excessive blood loss. Apply these ointments evenly on the wounds and a little under his nose, so that he can wake up as soon as possible. Because there was no good medicine to treat the wounds, coupled with a long delay, the young man's injuries on the ground worsened a lot, and his face was much paler than when he first got on the ship. After taking the ointment, Lance first observed it carefully. He found that except for the strange color, the smell was normal and had a little fragrance. Out of caution, Lance did not use it on the injured, but handed the ointment directly to Chris. Try it yourself first. Why? I don't have any wounds on my body, Chris was about to refute, but Lance handed the ointment one step closer again. You said to apply it under the nose, you. Okay, Chris was not worried about the efficacy of the potion she made. Not only that, she also felt that this potion was much better than the previous ones. But Lance's attitude still made her a little angry. After taking the ointment directly and applying it under her nose, Chris sat down where she was. Aunt Whitney, who had been following her, also applied the ointment under her nose. And, you? I have already signed a contract with the Calvin family to sell myself. Of course, I can't let you do this alone. Seeing that the master and servants in front of him were willing to try the medicine in person, Lance's vigilance was also lowered a lot. After undressing the injured person, he began to apply the ointment carefully. The potion took effect much faster than ordinary people's medicine. An hour after using the medicine, the injured person's face had slowly climbed up a little red, and the body temperature gradually dropped. Chris also received her first payment at this time. Oh my god, the prodigal daughter of the Calvin family can finally make money. After receiving the money, Aunt Whitney began to pray to God 10 gold coins. This is the largest income of the Calvin family in 3 years. The mood that was originally full of gloom due to escaping the war has now rekindled hope. After hearing Aunt Whitney's name for her, Chris showed a helpless expression on her face. Although she has indeed been a prodigal in the past 3 years, it is still a bit embarrassing to mention this title directly in front of outsiders. However, seeing the smile on the face of Aunt Whitney, who has looked up to her since she was a child, Chris was still very happy. Of course, in addition to being able to make money, the improvement of her potion-making skills also gave Chris a little more confidence in her future life. Especially after Chris found that the cut potion she made was more effective, she knew that the price of this bottle of ointment might be increased a little. Chapter 124 The Meaning of the Copy Spell. While Chris was looking for the reason why the potion was more effective, Moon was also waiting for the results of the treatment. It was not until a crew member came to report that the injured young man had recovered from his injuries that Moon determined the true effect of the potion. However, Moon was not in a hurry to make the potion because he found something more valuable than the potion. The wandering poet Mimir. This old and weird old man was left in the room by Moon after he had identified the potion. At this time, he was holding a charcoal pencil and lying on the table to record new poems. And Xilin, who was sitting next to him, was looking at the 2 new materials that Mimir had just identified. After Mimir identified the ground armor beast and the Selma flower, Moon suddenly had an idea and took out a herbal comparison manual he had recorded in Xilin. This manual records the 78 kinds of herbs that Moon found in Xilin, of which 31 kinds. He has been able to correspond to thousands of magical herbs and mushrooms. Moon just randomly pointed to 2 herbal pictures he had drawn, and Mimir could immediately tell them where they came from, what they looked like, and how they smelled. Young man, This is blood arrow grass, which people in the northern grasslands use to stop bleeding and detoxify. After Moon had someone prepare a hearty lunch for Mimir, the old man's way of speaking gradually returned to normal. Blood arrow grass. In 1,000 magical herbs and mushrooms, it is called cotton elm, and it is a raw material for a hemostatic potion. This is bellflower, which bears purple fruits, which are the nemesis of poisonous snakes in the rainforest. Bellflower. In 1,000 magical herbs and mushrooms, it is called mountain sedge, which is produced in Africa, and locals use it to treat cobra bites. After identifying 4 or 5 herbs, Mimir stopped paying attention to Moon and instead recorded his own poems. Mr. Mimir, what is your last name? How should I call you? Moon did not give up, but continued to ask. I don't have a last name. Mimir was given the name by the beautiful sister Teresa. Can you please stop disturbing me, young man? I still want to write poetry. Okay, old man. In fact, as long as you agree to my request, I will definitely ensure that you have a very comfortable creative environment. Young man, I have said that my life will be completely dedicated to anvil songs. I will not specifically help people identify any materials. Anvil Songs is the name of the collection of wandering poems that Mimir is writing. This collection of poems was originally a legend in the eastern mountainous area of the Manila Empire, and has always been passed down by word of mouth by the locals. Mimir also started collecting poems from there. From the original 31 scattered and incomplete poems, to now, after Mimir's 50 years of continuous writing, Anvil Songs already has 763 different types of wandering poems. Moon has no interest in wandering poems. He only cares about Mimir's 50 years of travel experience. Especially after learning that Mimir would go deep into remote mountainous areas to collect poems and talk with ordinary farmers, woodcutters, and hunters. Moon knew that this old man definitely knew more. But Mimir directly rejected Moon's kindness. Young man, I am 66 years old, but I have less than 1,000 poems in Anvil Songs. Time waits for no one. In order to make Mimir agree to identify the materials, Moon also asked the first mate Karen about his origins. This old man is very strange. As long as he has money, he will go to various places to collect poems. If he has no money, he will just find a job and organize the poems. He has been on a thorn for half a year and will leave after getting off the ship this time. From Karen's words, Moon knew that Mimir really liked poetry, but he didn't want to let such a wise man go. Mr. Mimir, you have written so many poems. Have you thought about how to pass them on in the future? Moon knew that in order to impress a person, he must start from what he cares about, so he asked this key question directly. Mimir also knew what Moon wanted to express, and he ignored him and continued to copy. Old sir, there should be quite a few original Anvil songs. Why are there only 31 left in the end? Aren't you worried that all your poems will be lost in 100 years or just 20 or 30 years? When Moon said this, Mimir stopped writing. Young man, there is no solution to your problem. What I can do is to write more, so that perhaps a lot of them can be preserved 100 years later. Who said there is no solution? I have a way to make your poems still intact 100 years later, and let more people know about it. Hearing Moon's arrogant tone, Mimir looked at him with his already cloudy eyes. You? Impossible, even if you are a magician. Hearing Mimir directly point out his identity, Moon was not surprised. In his opinion, this old man must have seen many magicians in his 50 years of travel. But the way to preserve poetry that Moon said was not a magician's way. Although he knew that there were many magic books thousands of years old in the library of Hogwarts. But he did not have the ability to make books that could be preserved for such a long time. Of course, in addition to the magic method, Moon actually saw another way of preservation and dissemination in the Muggle world of London. Schools, public libraries, cheap books, newspapers, radio stations, etc. These methods can preserve and spread poetry. Although Moon cannot take out these things for the time being, he can use magic to make Mimir believe in himself. Mr. Mimir, since you have seen a magician, I wonder if you have ever seen such magic. After Moon finished speaking, he did not wait for the other party to react and directly used his magic wand to cast the copy spell. Copy in pairs. An identical copy of Anvil Songs suddenly appeared on the table. After Mimir was stunned for a moment, he immediately picked up the extra poetry collection and quickly flipped through it. It's really exactly the same. Can it be preserved for a long time? I can only say that it will continue to exist until the magic energy dissipates. Is that so? It's also amazing. Other magicians can't do this. Moon didn't know if there was anything like the copy spell in this world, but since Mimir thought so, he didn't want to explain it for the time being. After Mimir finished reading the entire collection of poems, he closed it neatly, and even touched the rough cover with some reluctance. This is indeed very tempting, but I can't afford it. The price must be very expensive. The price Mimir was referring to was naturally the reward for asking Moon to cast the copy spell, to create more poetry collections. However, after seeing Mimir's reverence for poetry, Moon smiled faintly and shook his head. I don't want money, and I won't force you to do anything. Huh? Why? I think some things should be done by someone, just like you spent 50 years just to write a collection of poems. It seems that it is more convenient for me to do this. Chapter 125 The Unmoving Wizard. Mimir was finally persuaded by Moon. The old man who had devoted almost all his life to poetry agreed to stay. He also promised to help identify materials as much as possible in his spare time when writing poetry. Moon also readily let him live in the cabin in Veteran Alley. The environment here is quieter and cleaner, which is very suitable for Mimir to create poetry. How did you think of doing such a thing? After arranging Mimir to return, Xilin looked at Moon curiously. He didn't understand why Moon wanted to help this old man. Don't you always say that the life magic I master is useless? I think using it in this way is also a proof. What is there to prove? If you only know life magic, then if you are destroyed by the magician, you won't be able to see the poetry 100 years later. Yes, I can't see it, but people 100 years later may see it, and the people around me now will be happier, Moon said and flipped through the collection of poems he had just copied. Besides, why do you think I'm the one who will be eliminated? Moon could actually guess that the magicians in this world should be strong. After all, they all came out step by step in the war. But he also has more confidence in the magic he learned in Hogwarts. After all, the magic in that world develops much faster and more perfect than here. Of course, in addition to helping Mimir, Moon copied the poetry collection for his cousin Sophia. The little girl has been depressed since she got on board. Because she was worried about the situation of her father and brother, she hasn't smiled for several days. And there are many cheerful poems in Mimir's Anvil Song, which should bring a lot of joy to the children in Veteran Alley. In the second-floor cabin of the Thorn, when the children of Veteran Alley surrounded Mimir and wanted to listen to stories, Veteran Hall also received a task. Use the temporary workshop on the Thorn to make a complete set of potion-making tools, according to the drawings drawn by Moon. While Chris was refining the potion, Moon used the floating spell to intercept a standard amount of potion raw material powder. However, because there were no suitable tools, he could only wait temporarily. Fortunately, Uncle Hall was a full-time blacksmith in Veteran Alley, which made it possible for Moon to refine his first potion in the world in a short time. While waiting for the tools to make the potion, Moon practiced spells in the room attentively. Because there were no pottery figurines, Moon's practice on the ship could only focus on life-assisting spells. In addition to the spells collected from the Hogwarts library, Moon mainly practiced a floating spell. After the magic perception practice, Moon found that this spell had many uses and could train the magician's own fine control of magic. However, Moon did not have anything like a scale at hand, so he could only find some items with the same weight standard to practice. There was an abandoned anchor on the Thorn, which was replaced by gold because it did not bear enough weight. Each iron ring on this anchor weighed a standard kilogram. Moon used this iron ring to practice the levitation spell. Of course, being able to make such a heavy object float is actually more due to the old willow wand. This wand is much better than the one Moon used at Hogwarts, and the spell it casts is more powerful. Moon's levitation spell has only been learned for 2 weeks, so it is not a very long time. When practicing at Hogwarts, he could only make a fountain pen float. On the Thorn, with the old willow wand, he can easily make the anchor iron ring rise into the air. Of course, in addition to practicing spells every day, Moon is also observing the changes in his wizard bar. This thing growing on his head has always been used by Moon as a standard to observe the strength of other wizards. Now his classmates' wizard bars are constantly growing, while Moon's own distance from the first full bar has always been a little short. Originally, Moon's wizard bar length had surpassed Hermione before Hogwarts made the hand warmer. But now that the wizard bar has stopped growing, Hermione is about to catch up. After checking again unwillingly at night, Moon put down the mirror helplessly. I know you look better than many people, but aren't you a little too narcissistic? You looked at yourself in front of the water tank every day at Neil's house, and now you look at yourself in the mirror every day on the boat, Xilin complained helplessly after seeing Moon take out the mirror again. I'm not admiring my face, I'm just doing this because magic needs it. Okay, if you say so, then so be it. Moon had long been accustomed to Xilin's complaints. Watching the middle-aged uncle turn over and sleep, Moon no longer paid attention. After 3 consecutive days of practice, Moon used the old willow wand to make 3 iron rings float up and maintain it for 10 minutes. This level of floating spell has surpassed many senior students. It was also during Moon's spell practice that the little witch Chris had new business. The potion made last time was very effective, but it was far from enough for Lance. Albert Suarez, who fainted, was the most seriously injured, so this time all the ointment was given to him alone. Lance and the 4 soldiers who followed him were actually injured, and one of them even had a deep cut on his abdomen. After 5 consecutive days of sailing at sea, they did not get enough rest. Coupled with a lack of food and medicine, the injuries of these people became more and more serious. Do you want to know the name of this potion? Yes, if possible, we will buy it ourselves after we land. Lance would be charged 10 gold coins for each potion he asked Chris to make. This price was nothing to Lance in the past. But now that they have escaped from Luoyan City, they have no support. In addition, after going to the Venus Islands, they still have to find a way to make a living, so they can only spend their money sparingly. Sorry, this potion is passed down from my family. You probably can't buy it anywhere else, and you have seen its efficacy. Ordinary medicines don't have this effect. Hearing Chris's words, Lance obviously hesitated. After applying medicine to the wounded for 3 days, Lance did find that this medicine was very good, otherwise he would not have come to Chris to continue asking. Okay, then I want to buy another bottle from you. No. 2 bottles. The price? Of course the price is still the same as before. Seeing that Lance actually decided to buy 1 more bottle, Chris was very straightforward and did not raise the price. In the eyes of this little witch, being able to establish a relationship with these people who are obviously powerful is also a kind of invisible income. Especially Chris is very confident that her potion is unique. And the other party must come to her if he wants to buy it again. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.